Okay, cool.
What's going on, everybody? It's your main man, Kenny Caraway, with James Ham here today. James Ham rocking with me today. No Damien today. He had a PTO day, that I'm looking to take off on from my house on New Year's Day. Go to that Niners Raiders game. That's the plan. So Dame's not in today. It's gonna be me and James rocking all day long, man. All day long.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, man. This is energizing. What happened last night is energizing. That was that was a lot of fun. I didn't. I said it was going to happen on the show. Wasn't exactly sure, but yeah.
But you also say like "Go Bucks" all the time.
I
So
did say go back. I gave him a go King last night though. I said go King. I said they're gonna move up into the. I said top three, but don't worry about that. I should have said the second commercial, or they're gonna make it past the commercial break. That was what I was thinking. So
yeah, it's a big day. It's like when you make it above the fold in the newspaper. Yeah, that's such a good thing. When you make it above the fold, it's like, and when you make it past the commercial break, and you're still alive. Yeah, it's always exciting.
yeah.
What was that moment? Did you get all amped up? Because like when I'm watching the lottery, I don't know what it is. Like I get butterflies. Like, hey, I'm
Oh,
like, this is fun, man. Like it's intense and
oh
the
yeah.
music, and you're like watching them fold out, and then usually I was waiting for number 8 and for it to be the Sacramento Kings, and then it gets past number 8. You're like, they got a chance, and then I said this on the podcast last night. My 19-year-old comes running down the stairs, freaking out, like because he's a big fan, and he comes down and he's just like, oh, and then we watch what was happening. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was fun to watch.
That was absolutely exciting. I think we're about to be ready to come on in any second here. Jesse, you there? You can hear me? Okay, here we go, James. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, man. Let the air horns ring one more time. It's D-Lo and KC. It's ESPN 1320. Today, with the main man, Kenny Caraway, with James Ham, the Hammer. He's riding shotgun with me today. Damien's off today, handling some business, doing what he do. We letting him rock. We letting him do whatever he got to do. But that doesn't mean we don't have a whole lot to talk about here today, James. We got a whole lot to talk about. And obviously, the mirror horns went off for a reason. Oh, by the way, people in the chat, you're right. Acknowledge me. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the building. You got to acknowledge me. Acknowledge the Kings. And before I do anything, James, there's a skit on which album was that? My Twisted Dark Fantasy, Kanye West's album, where the guy, it's Chris Rock. And he's talking to his girlfriend, and he's talking about all these things that she's great at and what she could do. And he's like, "Who taught you this?" And she always says, "Easy taught me. Easy taught me." And then at the end, after he keeps asking the questions, he goes, "Well, you know what?" Chris Rock goes, "You know what? I got to thank Easy." Well, you know what, James? I got to thank At Nani. That's who I got to thank. We talked about how it was ridiculous. We'll get into all that and everything throughout the show. But you know what? I got to thank At Nani. And that's how you say her name? And what's Rana Dive's daughter's name? How you say her first name?
Angeli,
Angeli. I got to thank
Angeli.
Angeli. Because clearly she brought some vibes for the Kings to move up from where they were supposed to be at 7. Possibly they had equal odds of moving back, right, than they did to get in the top 4.
Yeah, they had a better chance of landing number 8 than any other spot. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. That's what I always hate about the draft is that you do have such a good chance of falling. And like we were talking about before we came on the air, like you're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. What's going to happen? And then it's usually so anticlimactic. They flash up a card and you're like, oh man, like I expected it at number 8. I did, and to watch them, like boom, you make it past commercials. Like, it's a celebration. I mean, if you're a Kings fan, you didn't get the top 3, but I could make an argument that the 4th pick is the power position in the draft.
We got a lot. We're going to talk about that. Obviously, Sacramento Kings get the number 4 pick in this upcoming draft. They were slated to go at 7. They moved up. They were the first team. Were they the only team to move up in this draft? Everybody just moved back, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were I can't remember the exact draft order. Was Orlando? Did Orlando have the worst record?
I thought Houston had the worst record. So it's Orlando, the Thunder, and Houston in the top 3.
Yeah, that's the top 3. So like they're the one that they're the biggest jump for sure. They took a huge leap forward. 3 picks is huge, and the value of 3 picks is absolutely spectacular. So you're again, like I would say it this way, like just a real basic. If you're looking at the number 7 pick and trying to trade that for a veteran power forward, you're looking at probably like Jeremy Grant. Like whether or not you can get Jeremy Grant, I'm not sure, but that's what you're kind of looking at. You get up to number 4, now you're in the discussion for Pascal Siakam. Now you're in the discussion for John Collins. Like and it also can really save you on the back end. So as opposed to having to give up 2 picks, having to give up this year's and the 2024 pick, maybe you can just get away with giving up the 2022 pick. Maybe that's one way, just this year's draft pick, and be able to make a huge splash. So yeah, I think this is exciting. I think the Kings they definitely, and I think the moment of the night, it wasn't Angeli, who was there. It was Sabonis. Like you just, not only did you do him right by sending him there, but then he's a good luck charm, and that smile that he had on his face, that's a smile he had the first day he got to Sacramento, and you want that smile to keep staying there. That smile needs to be locked in, and that needs to be like, that's who he is. So that would be exciting.
Absolutely. Once again, I got to thank Angeli. Thank you at Nani. You know what I mean? Thank you for the vibes. But there's so much we're going to get into the guys that they have to look at now that maybe they weren't looking at before. I think it's a 3-player race. If you're keeping a draft pick, I think it's a 3-player race for who you would take it for, assuming the top 3 goes away. We think that it would go. That's an assumption because things can change with that as well. Do you trade the pick? What kind of options do you have as far as trading? What options do you have as free agents? All this other stuff. This was a game changer. We got Brendan Nunez coming on, the HBK, the Heartbreak Kid, coming on at 12:47. We're chasing down another guest a little later. We're working on some stuff right now. It's a fluid situation, but we're here all day to talk about this. But I want to go to kind of where you started and where we went on the before we went on air, about just that moment of seeing the Kings move up. And you mentioned something that I 100% agree with. I'm sitting there, I'm watching the draft. And no, part of me is whatever. Okay, like it's whatever. And once them envelopes start getting opened up, the butterflies start coming. It's like, oh, maybe this is the year. Maybe things will change this year. And then it goes chalk. And I think you said at 8, you felt something. I didn't feel anything until I saw Portland at that number 7 spot, and I popped. I said, I was leaning back on the couch, and I popped up. I got on the edge. I said, oh, does that mean what I think it means? And sure enough, Malik Andrews like, that means the Kings moving to the top 4. And I mean, the anticipation for the next 10, 15 minutes or so, I thought they were going to get number 1, James. I was like, yo, they're about to get a number 1 pick in the draft. Ended up getting 4. I didn't care. I was like, you in the top 4, you can go get you can get an impact player anywhere. But you got a little bit more control of your destiny at this point at number 4. I thought it was a fantastic moment. And a moment that kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't necessarily expecting it. I was hoping it, even though I did call they would be in the top 4 yesterday. I did call that. Once again, Barry Horowitz, let me pat myself on the back. I said, before the shot, they're going to get in it. I said the top three. Don't mind that. I really meant they were going to get to the commercial break. That's what I meant. Okay. I called it. So everybody give me my roses right now. You know what it is.
Acknowledge.
I did call it. So, yeah, when it actually happened though, I popped hard, man. What went on in the Ham household when that actually went down?
Yeah, like I was actually on the phone. Like I got a random phone call at 5 o'clock, and it was a phone call. I was sitting there listening to the phone call and watching on TV and listening and watching. And so I'm just kind of watching the first things play out really quickly. And then out of nowhere, I literally like, look, hey, I'm sorry, I got to cut you off, but I got to go. The Kings just moved up in the lottery. And it was like, oh my gosh, I forgot it was today. And I'm like, yeah, it's today. It's right now. It just happened. And they just moved up. I got to run. And it was like, okay, so we cut the conversation short. And then sure enough, my 19-year-old, who's a huge fan of basketball and of all sports, but he came running downstairs like ready to lose his, he was very, very excited. And we were just sitting there like at that point for me, like when I knew that they had moved up, it didn't really matter where they went. Like if they would have got number one, sure. But I think that there's such a danger in this specific drafting number one, because you got three guys with totally different skill sets. You have no idea which of the three is going to be great, if all three will be great, if two of the three will be great, if none of them will be great. But it sets you up to be in this situation where you choose the wrong guy.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal, like for the Kings. I think it's a bigger deal for the Kings than any other franchise because, of course, the Luka Doncic situation. But if you're the Kings and you're sitting there, like, there's, sure, number one has more value. You could trade it for more. You could get who you think is the best player in the draft. But number four is that spot where, number one, someone can drop to you of the top three easily in this draft. Easily someone could drop to the 4 pick. But also, it's that spot where people are going to try to move up. They're going to try to get there to try to jump ahead of teams like Detroit, who clearly want, like that perfect pairing long term for Cade Cunningham. So yeah, I really do think that it's a good spot to be in. And worst case scenario, you're choosing between like Jaden Ivey and Shaden Sharp. Best case scenario, one of the big three big men fall to you. Or realistically, the other scenario is that you trade this thing for absolute gold. And that's where I think the Kings, they want to get better fast. And I'm not sure you can get better fast with Sharp or with Ivy. You can get better long term, but better fast, I'm not sure. But it certainly opens the door to trade the pick and to move on from it. And so, yeah, it was exciting. It was it's always, again, I love the lottery, and the fact that the Kings have been in the lottery like 16 straight years, except for the one season where they traded it in 2019, where you knew they were still in the lottery, but they hadn't, they didn't have their pick. Yeah. So I think it was good. It was good for Kings fans to have a moment like that, especially after sort of the jarring day that they were having.
Ricky Rose, a friend of the program, friend of D-Lo and KC, he's got a song called "Blowing Money Fast." Dr. David, I need you to get on your editing skills and just like get Vivek or Monty or whatever and put him on the Rick Ross Teflon Don logo and turn that into GBF, getting better fast. That's what they're trying to do. They ain't blowing money. They're getting better fast. Is James? That's right. James, because we're going to get into, there's so many things going on here now about who I think they should pick. And if anybody's followed me on Twitter, you already know where I'm going with this. But I understand there's a bunch of options out there. There's a bunch of other good prospects going on. We're going to talk about what this means for the trade market for the Sacramento Kings now, because it's opened up a lot of different scenarios. And I got one scenario that I was talking to James with before the show that I just want to throw out there. I think the phone call needs to be made. I think the scenario needs to be laid out a certain way. All right. And I would just call Danny Ainge and say, look, man, this is what it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is on the other side. But like I said, we got Brendan Nunez. Like I said, we're tracking down one other guest. Like I said, we're working behind the scenes here. We break down the fourth wall all the time. But more than anything, fourth pick in the draft. The Kings moved up. They've got number 4. They've got a lot of players at their disposal that they can pick from now. They got a lot of scenarios, and we're going to be here for the next 3 hours and 45 minutes or so, just breaking it all down, man. Right here on D-Lo and KC. It's Kenny Caraway. It's James Ham. D-Lo and KC on ESPN 1320. I gave away my tease a little bit, just in case you guys didn't hear it. I'm not going to say it again, but I gave away my tease. How could I? Bad job by me.
God, my earpieces are acting funny today.
I just got some new earpieces yesterday, and it's kind of weird because they kind of pull at me. They pull at me in the back. Pause. So they got this slinky movement to it, and it weighs like it ends up being a weight. So my ears and everything get pulled back here. So
gotcha.
yes.
Yeah, I use my IFBs, so I have molded earpieces.
Yeah, these are my fake IFBs here. Fake IFBs. These are Amazon specials.
Yeah. Hang on, someone asked. Let's see. Isn't Murray the player you didn't like when you watched the tournament game? They get bounced because no, that wasn't all the little things away from the ball. That was oh man, Agbaji. Yeah.
Out of Kansas.
Yeah. Akai Agbaji. That's who it was. I didn't see him move well off the ball at all. Like this is going to be a really interesting draft build-up. I like it though, because now all of a sudden we're going to start seeing big names come through Sacramento. So if they don't let us into pre-draft workouts, I'm going to be pissed. So yeah, that's a big issue.
Now, I asked, somebody said this on Twitter, and they talked about there'll be other big names that come up, but they talked about, we'll have to see what goes on with Ivy and Sharp in their workouts. And I said, if it's not a top 3 team, they wouldn't be working out if I was their agent. Ivy and Sharp, if it's not a top 3 team, I wouldn't send them for a workout. We could have an interview, but I wouldn't send them for a workout.
No, I think the top 4, because neither one of those guys are guaranteed to go number 4.
So you think the Kings are in that space where they get a workout? But
yeah,
you know what I'm saying, right? Like,
no, I got you.
5. Like, if I'm projected to go top 5, I wouldn't work out for anybody below 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, even working out for number 5, you typically don't do. If you're trying to get into the top 4 and you think you're a top 4 guy, and you're super close to that, you typically don't work out for 5, 6, 7. Right. But I think it's going to be a lot more open than people are thinking. Like again, I just wrote on this. Look at last year's draft. Last year's draft, Jalen Suggs we had going number 2, number 3, number 4 at the lowest. He drops to 5, and Scotty Barnes moves up to number 4. Josh Giddey was expected to go like anywhere between 10 and 17. And he ends up going all the way to 6. Yeah. Like the entire draft board was turned on its head. And this could be the same exact thing. I mean, Shaedon Sharpe, like people should know that he can go number 1. Like he still could go without any question. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we'll talk about this. It's a good day. It's a good day for Sacramento Kings fans.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Keegan Murray should not go number 4.
I was watching some more film on Keegan before we started the show, and I don't want to make it like he can play. I like some of the things he did, but 4, I just don't know if I could do it at 4.
No, I like him a lot too. I don't even like him at 7. Like maybe because the rest of the draft isn't that good, but like typically the player type that he is, the skill set that he has, I just think he's probably a little bit lower. His age, you factor in his age and experience. Yeah, I would have put him lower than 7.
Zach De La Rosa I'm gonna talk about that right when we come back. We're coming back any second now. But obviously, you don't follow me on Twitter at IMK Diddy. Go follow me. You would know what's going on. But I'm gonna talk about it next. Nice, good stuff. Let me see exactly what it is. Oh, I can't get in there. D-Lo and KC. No D-Lo today, just KC. But I'm fortunate enough to be with my main man, James Ham from the Kings Beat. He's riding shotgun with me all day today as we talk about one of the more fun days in Kings, Sacramento Kings. I don't want to say history, but maybe it is history. Like they've only moved up, what, 3 times?
I think it's 4.
This is 4 now. It was 3 previous. This makes it 4.
Yeah. I think they moved up to number 1 when they drafted Purvis Ellison in 1988.
Always nervous Purvis.
Yeah. And that was a wholly disaster and a very bad draft. They got the 3rd pick in the draft when they drafted Billy Owens, but that pick was number 3. They were the 3rd worst team. I think as far as moving up into the top, you got the Fox year where they moved up to all the way up to number 3 and then fell back to number 5 because of the pick swap. And then, of course, the Marvin Bagley year where they jumped up to number 2 from number 8. And so this makes the 4th time. And it's a good one. It comes at the right time for the franchise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, literally the right time, because an hour before the draft, the lottery, it wasn't good. It wasn't good on King's Twitter. We'll get into that as well. But hey, all you guys can say that all you want. I'm here to thank @Nani. That's her Twitter name, by the way, @Nani. That's why I keep calling her that, because that's all what right. I tweeted out. I said, thank you, @Nani. Thank you, because she brought the vibes. I'm giving her credit. She brought the vibes. We moved up into the top 4 after thinking we were going to get 7. I think people were afraid we were going to fall back, but now we're at 4. And James, I want to lay something out. I just want to lay it out real quick and talk about what's going on for me the last 18 hours or so. Right? You get the number 4 pick in the draft. And immediately, this is a guy that I've been talking about since, what are we in, May right now? Probably been talking about this young man since February. When I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to act like I've seen him his whole life, kind of stumbled across him, right? I would look at these mock drafts and, in February and January, because that's what we do here in Sacramento. We got to look at mock drafts in January and February. It's a tradition like any other. And I kept seeing this guy, top 5, top 6, Shaedon Sharpe at Kentucky. And I'm like, yo, I watched Kentucky play. I know Ty Washington. I know what they can do. I don't ever remember seeing no Shaedon Sharpe. I got what? I'm not getting this. They talking about at Kentucky. So I did the deep dive and I saw what was going on. And then it was like, oh, Shaedon's not playing. And I was like, well, why isn't he playing? And then I click on some videos and I'm like, oh, this kid can go. And I came on these airwaves and I said, yo, this dude Shaedon Sharpe, he's projected to go top 10. If the Kings had another top 10 pick and he's around, man, he's interesting. This is February. This is January. I said, he's interesting. Lo and behold, they get to 4. And I went back into it. I revisited again. And I said, oh, man, you might have to take Shaedon Sharpe. You might have to take this young man. And look, man, let me lay it out first. I understand it's a risk. I get that. I'm not coming at this as if Shaedon is can't miss. I understand he didn't play college basketball. I understand all the video that we have on him is EYBL stuff, Adidas Nation stuff, no real defense, pro day workouts. I understand. I get all that. But, James, I see Shaedon, and I see a guy that, tell me if I'm wrong, possibly we've never had here in Sacramento. This is a guy that we've been searching for. My original epiphany talking about Dame Lillard and all this other stuff, being able to score on 3 levels, attack the basket, get the mid range, hit the long ball, handle the right, all this other stuff, create your own shot. My epiphany was somebody like what I've seen from Shaedon Sharpe. That's the kind of guy I'm talking about. And I know it's risky. I know you may have a lame duck GM. I know that they have this have to make the playoffs now mentality, in part because of what Kenny Caraway's talking about. I get it. I understand what I've created out here in Sacramento. I know. But this guy right here, I'm gonna say one thing and I'm gonna let you speak on this. If I'm the GM and I see Shaedon Sharpe, Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray standing right there. If I draft him and he's a bust or he doesn't work out and Ivy and Murray are better than him, I can live with that. I can be like, you know what? Swung for the fences. I missed. I got it wrong. I can live with that. I'll probably be unemployed. I understand that, but I can live with myself. I'd have a hard time living with, I took the quote unquote safe pick and I took Ivy or Keegan Murray and Shaedon and he goes on to be Paul George and I passed on him. I'd have a hard time being, and Ivy and Murray might not even be bad ball players. They might be as good as Davion Mitchell is right now. Good, solid ball player. But if Shaedon turns into the Paul George, the Bradley Beal that he's comped to be, and I pass on him, man, I may fire myself.
It's really the toughest player that we're going to have, and it's been probably the toughest player that we've had for a while. He was the number 1 overall prospect for next year's draft, but he reclassified and jumped into this year, and then he wasn't able to play at Duke. He didn't play at Duke. Whatever the reason was there.
Kentucky. He was at Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky. I'm sorry. Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah, I'm not really even sure. Like, there's a lot of stuff to unpack there about what's happening and, whether he is eligible for the draft this year or not.
Well, talk about that just a little bit because you talked about it on the Kings beat about just why he didn't play. There's a couple of different reasons why he didn't play, and you brought up a good one. He might not even have been able to play.
Yeah. So, well, for NBA draft, you have to have graduated from high school before the first game of the previous season. So, for this year is like October 17th or something. So he has to have graduated high school by then. Mm-hmm. And there's some concern that he may not have graduated before then. Mm-hmm. And so I think that they've already come to the conclusion that he is eligible for this year's draft. So he will be in the draft. But, I mean, he's a young player for sure. And then he just sat out the whole year. And then, I think the other problem, we've talked about this a couple of times, is we're in these weird COVID times. And, there's a reason that he went from like, a top 100 player to a top 3 player or a top 1 player. And part of it is because, you stop seeing other players. Mm-hmm. And some players quit playing basketball or weren't able to go play a bunch of basketball tournaments because of the pandemic. And so he moved up pretty quickly. He's got a big-time NBA body. I think it's 6'6", 6'7", with a 7-foot wingspan. He really has the length to be an elite defender. Whether he's an elite defender yet, probably not. But he is a really nice steal guy. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of tools that he has. And the question is, how long does it take him to put them all together? And do the Kings have the sort of the plan in place to take a player like that, to mm-hmm. develop him the right way, to get him to the next level? And I'm not sure. I mean, it's gonna be a difficult thing to take a player who's so raw, who hasn't played the game in a year, mm-hmm. and try to throw him out there and hope for the best. And I think if you look at, again, like him and Ivy, I don't know if it's a coin flip. I mean, clearly Sharpe can play the 3, so he's a little bit more of a player of, he fits better at like more at a position of need. He projects as a better defender than Ivy. Mm-hmm. Ivy has like the speed and the quickness and the hops to like make everybody in Sacramento fall in love with him in the first game. Now that doesn't mean that it will equate to wins, but he certainly will be fun. And I'm okay if Shaden Sharp is a guy at number 4. That tells me number one, there aren't any players that fell, so none of the big 3 fell to you at number 4. Also, that there wasn't a deal good enough for you to trade out of that spot. So
Mhm.
if it comes down to it, and you're looking at both Sharp and you're looking at Ivy, I kind of like him better than Ivy as the potential, although and certainly the fit. Um, although again, Ivy is just like his
Spectacular.
ability to change speed, direction, and then get off the floor, and he's fearless and he's fun.
Mhm.
And again, he brings that fun factor. Is he refined as a shooter? No. Is he a bad defender? Absolutely.
Mhm.
These are things that you would have to have major concerns about and how he would fit with De'Aaron. But at the same time, I also watched him play off the ball a ton in college. And so, I think it's a gamble, but, Kyrie Irving only played like 11 games at Duke, right?
I think he
Because
less than that, like 7 games or
yeah,
something.
it was something really, really low, and so there are players who have not played a huge amount of time, and then there are a bunch of, players who play in Europe that you don't really know how to compare the level of competition and stuff like that, but who have never played like Division 1 basketball here, and they go high in the
Mhm.
draft. So yeah, so I don't think that it will totally be prohibitive that he didn't play this year. But at the same time, I would have liked to have seen more tape. Watching like high school mixtapes is not fun when you're doing scouting for
Mhm.
draft. And then the new thing, the 1v0, it's just like, come on. The
Yeah.
only thing I saw, I'll tell you, I watched him do all these funny things. Not once did I watch him move at game speed. Like not even once. He didn't look like he was just kind of milling around on the court, and it was like, okay, like I see you got to fade away. I see your step up 3-point shot. That's nice, but like show me game speed. Show me that you can do all that stuff while moving. And
Mhm.
I didn't see that. So yeah, we got to really figure out who and what he is. And I want to have the Kings sit down and have a nice steak dinner with him and figure out if he can hold his own in a conversation and what his basketball EQ is and all that stuff. Because that's kind of what you don't see. You don't get
Right.
to see. You get to see that he can dunk, he can shoot the three, he can shoot the mid range, he can dribble okay, but can he do all the things in between? Can he get to point A to point B? Can he make his teammates better? And those are things that I think you answer on the court. You don't answer in a 1v0 workout.
Yeah, and you mentioned something right there about meeting with them, right? And I was talking to my guy Josh Ellis on Twitter earlier, and he talked about whoever is brought in for workouts between Sharp and Ivy, just play defense. You get a read from them, and I said neither one of them should work out for any team outside of the top 3. So I don't think you're going to see them on the floor. During the break, you were like, I'm not so sure. Like they may come into Sacramento now for workouts because they're projected to go 4 and higher. I always felt that in that particular situation, if you're projected already at 4 or 5, then you would just kind of you let that be there. And if you wanted to work out for somebody, it would be somebody in the top 3. But you say not so fast, Casey. They might come into Sacramento to have some workouts.
Well, especially a guy like Shaden Sharp who hasn't played. Like, I mean, he's got to show that he can get on the court and actually do things. And so, I mean, if he wants that top 4 spot, then he's going to have to go make a bid for it. And I would even say this, like there are going to be some teams that sneak in and see him in gyms somewhere in the U.S. And teams, maybe like a Portland, maybe like the Pistons, guys that are outside of the top 4 who do quiet workouts with them. And when they do those workouts, it's with the intent that they may move up to go get him.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't want to totally take yourself out of the running for that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, look, if I'm his agent and I know that the Sacramento Kings are the 4th pick, and there's a possibility he can go number 4, but there's also a possibility that Detroit can move up 1 spot and maybe that's a better situation for him, or that Portland could move up 3 spots and maybe that's a better situation for him. Then I'm going to let him work out or at least meet with those teams. And to me, that's a big deal. Like you're going to want to gather as much information as possible if you're the player and the team. You don't just always want to think of it as is this a right fit for the team? Is it the right fit for the player as well?
Mhm.
And the Kings don't have a great history of developing talent and taking players to the next level and all that stuff. So you would hope that they would be able to like convince him, like have him in, and like this is the right spot for you.
Right. Yeah. And Shaden is the guy that I've latched on to, but I know just on King's Twitter and even in a lot of the mock drafts, I mean, it's really a 3-team race right now. Once again, this is assuming that it's in some order: Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr., and Paolo Banchero going in the top 3, which it's what it is, an assumption, because that could change as well at the drop of a dime. But we've heard Shaden, we've heard Jaden Ivey and Keegan Murray. And I know I've talked a lot in the last night and this morning about, Jaden, and everybody's like, well, he didn't play. I don't want to draft a guy who didn't play basketball last night. I'm going with the proven guy who showed it in college. And look, I'm not here to disparage Jaden Ivey or Keegan Murray. I think they're both good ball players. I really like Jaden. Like, Jaden is, like you mentioned, super exciting, super exciting. But, if I wanted to go down that road, I could talk about how I've never really seen him hit a jump shot. You know what I'm saying? And if I wanted to talk about Keegan Murray, I'd be like, well, you're 21 beating up on 18 and 19-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like, you should be doing that. But they're both good. Like, the whole point of me saying that is can poke holes in any of these prospects, really. But I choose to look at what they can do. Keegan Murray can stretch the floor. He did what he was supposed to do in college. He put up big time numbers. Jaden Ivey looks like a top flight athlete, and the upside is crazy for him. And Shaden Sharp, when you look at his skill set, you look at the way that he moves at that size. He's 6'6" at 18, 19 years old. By the time he's 22, he could be 6'9". You know what I mean? With the 7'3" wingspan and being able to shoot the ball from beyond the arc, all this other stuff. It just magnifies that the Kings are in such a good position being at this number 4 pick, but they're also in a very important position because they've got to get it right. And like you mentioned, they've got situations now that open up to them where they may not be drafting at 4. They may move back. They may trade. But I'll say this about a trade, James, and I want to hear what you got to say. As Fat Joe once said, yesterday's price is not today's price. The price is going up if you're doing business with the Sacramento Kings. And to be honest with you, we talk a lot about John Collins and guys like that for the first round pick. I don't know if John Collins, I don't know if that's where I want to go if I'm trading the number 4 pick, John Collins. Like, the price is going up. It's a little higher than John Collins at this point. What do you think about the price going up on doing business of trading the Kings first round pick this year?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think the way that I would say it is that, like, look, you might have been able to shave off a second first round pick. That's how this works out. Like, if you go from 7 to 4, and your offer for a guy like John Collins was a 7th pick this year and the 2024, lottery protected pick, whatever it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's any longer the case. Like, I think at this point you can get a better player for less because you have a higher draft pick. And so I think it puts you in the running for some players that you would not have been in the running for if a guy like Bradley Beal becomes available. Again, Portland can talk about how much they love Bradley Beal all they want. They want to put him next to Dame Lillard. That's great and all, but at the end of the day, like, one team has a 4th pick, one team has a 7th pick. That's got more value. The Kings pick has a lot more value. So I think it's good. And then again, like, I think the other thing that I'll point out is your top 3 picks: the Magic, the Thunder, the Rockets. Well, those are the 3 teams that are looking for young talent. They're bad teams who tanked, who are in the top of the draft for a specific reason. It's because they tried to get to the top of the draft. And so I would circle the number 4 pick as the first pick that's available in the top 5, in the top 10. It is the primo spot because it's the one that everyone knows could be had if the price is right.
Right.
And so I think that that's a big distinction. I also, again, sometimes it's about the teams that's behind you. Like, if I'm looking at the Kings at number 4 and the Pistons at number 5, man, if the Kings play this right and they've got good intel, and maybe they got to call up Joe Dumars and bring him back as like some other weird position that we have no idea what it means. But if you get Joe Dumars to call his friends in Detroit and like, hey, get me some intel here, right?
Yeah.
That's a place where if you know who they want, or you can pitch to them that you think you know who they want, or you start talking to other teams that could move above the Pistons to get the guy that they potentially could want, then that opens the door for you to go, again, would a deal moving from 4 to 5 and giving up Rashawn Holmes and giving up, Justin Holiday to move back one spot, but picking up Jeremy Grant? How about just a straight 4-for-5 swap and picking up, a guy like Sadiq Bey in the deal? Like if it's the right guy, and that's why I think where you landed, especially above the Pistons, might actually be as valuable as the move from 7 to 4.
I like that. I like what you're thinking. I smell what you're cooking, James. The other thing that I talked about it before the break, and I don't know what Monty's going to do. I don't know what phone calls he's making. I know what phone call he should make, and one that he should make. And I don't know if these guys are ready to make that move. I don't know if this is the route they want to go. But I said this. I said, look, I call up Danny Ainge in Utah. And I'd lay out the situation in the scenario. I'd be like, Danny, you and I both know what's going on right here in Utah. That's finished. That's done. You guys, it's not happening. And on top of that, your shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, he's going to leave you. We all know what time it is. He's going to leave you. If I say Harrison Barnes, Davion Mitchell, and the number 4 pick, are you sure that, and I'm talking to Danny Ainge, are you sure that you're going to get a better trade proposal than that? I don't know if you are. I don't know if you are.
I agree. And I also would say that, like, in a normal situation, I would say, okay, and the 2024 pick. But now my 2024 pick changes considerably. My 2024 now becomes a top 10 pick, a top 10 protected pick, as opposed to an unprotected pick or something else. So, again, like, there's hidden value all over the place in this 4 pick, but it gets you in the door, right? I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, you're actually getting into the conversation now because you have something that's extremely valuable and that people will want. And, whether they make the right move here or not is yet to be seen. But I think we've already seen a pretty substantial major deal happen, and you kind of hope that they can do another one that would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing that is exciting about this is it opens up so many doors. We were talking to you on Monday, and I was talking to Damien about it yesterday. I'm like, man, like I don't really know what assets the Kings have to get a super impact player. I'm talking about John Collins, and I'm looking at it like, I mean, Atlanta might do that for Harrison and maybe a conditional. They might, but if they got in a bidding war with somebody else, I don't know if the Kings have ammunition. Now they've got ammunition. Now they've got big time ammunition. And I think it also sweetens the pot on what they already had, whether it's a Harrison Barnes or Rashawn Holmes. Like if you throw that 4 in there, people look at Rashawn Holmes a little different. Like before, if you didn't have the draft pick, if it was 7 or something like that, they'd be like, oh, 7 and Rashawn, I don't know about that. But now it's Jaden Ivey and Rashawn Holmes. Rashawn could run with him. We can get up and it just changes the whole dynamic of what this team is able to do. And there's so many different levels to this whole Kings going forward thing that we have to get into. I want to get into it with you, James. We got Brendan Nunez, the heartbreak kid, coming through on the other side of this break. Man, the Kings got the 4th pick. Once again, I just got to thank @Anani. Thank you again. It's her vibes. She did it for us. I can't hold my containment, man. I'm hyped and ready to go. We got more time to talk about all this. It's Kenny Caraway. It's James Ham. It's D'Lo and KC right here on ESPN 1320.
We'll be back in 2 seconds.
For sure. Let's see what the people are talking about. What y'all saying? Who won Jonathan Isaac? I don't know how that will work out. I like Kevin Huerter. Oh, we're going to ask James this when he comes back. That's interesting. Maybe if they give us their pick. Do we have the whole first round? I think we do. Where is it at? We absolutely have to do an 8-hour draft show. I was gonna propose and I feel like I'm the only one. I'm a one-man wolf pack. I feel like we got to be somewhere. We got to figure out how to broadcast and be somewhere for this one. People are gonna go crazy. Yeah. Yeah, we got to be. I want to be out with the people for this one. This one might go crazy.
You with your maniacal laugh.
Hey, yeah, this is I'm about to ask you something. The whole draft is set now, right?
I think the final can move up and down a little bit. I'm not positive. I can't remember.
Can somebody ask the question? Yeah, because we got Brendan. I'll ask you now. Somebody asked the question: would you do Hunter and Collins for the 4? And probably you train Harrison or something like that. I would. Tell me if I'm getting too greedy. I would want 16 back as well. Or is that asking too much? That's the Hawks.
Yeah, that's tough. Like I think you probably get Collins and something else. Again, like I think the key is if you get Collins without giving up Barnes. So you know what I mean? That would be the key, is if you can do that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Someone else asked a question. Would you trade the 4th pick for 2 later first-round picks? Absolutely not.
Not the 4th. No.
Turn it around. Just if you were the Kings, do you really think you could get, do you think you could get up in the draft? I mean, again, if OKC wants to give me a top tier pick next year and their first round pick and then maybe another first down the road, but specifically next year, like unprotected, I'd at least listen, because next year's draft has a couple of superstars.
Right.
And I would love to have OKC's pick. But yeah, I mean, it's complicated.
Like for instance, Charlotte has 13 and 15. Like if the Kings had 13 and 15 and tried to get up to 4, they'd probably get laughed at.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, but I would also tell you this. The fact that Charlotte does have number 15, that kind of is intriguing to me now, because they didn't move up with their 13th pick. So 13 and 15, they don't need another 2 young players. They drafted Book Knight and Kai Jones last year. So I would still circle them as a team that probably is an odds-on favorite to land Richaun Holmes, and I would like that 15th pick. You know, take a young player and a 15th pick and give them give them Richaun Holmes, and so then that way you have 2 picks in this draft, because I don't like where the Kings are at, like with their build. So and again, in that scenario, if you then traded the 4th pick, you traded out, you still retain all of your Stepien rule stuff, because you still have a first round pick in the draft. So yeah. You're not getting both of the picks for Richaun Holmes, but I think you could get one of the picks.
That would be Yeah.
And I don't think you can get the 13th, but the 15th. The 15th.
Here we go, man. D-Lo and KC. No D-Lo today. James Ham riding with me today, man. D-Lo and KC brought to you by McQueen and the Bottle of Fog Gin. My go-to gin last night is I was celebrating, man. I was feeling good. I was feeling good. Kings got up into the top 4. Like I said earlier, they made it to the second commercial, well, after the commercial break. That's what they made it to. And that was a pretty cool moment that you talked about earlier. It was like one of the realest moments of the lottery when Portland's name comes up at 7 and Sabonis looks over at Lillard and the whole room kind of just giggles because Sabonis has this big smile on his face. That was a pretty cool moment right there.
Yeah, he looked pretty fly too. I like his look. Yeah, I don't think they make ties long enough to go around or like the top button shirt. So like he's probably I don't know, but his I don't know that they make collared shirts that are big enough to go around his neck and still fit. So like he has that look. He looked like he was about to go to a Lithuanian disco. Yeah, I was excited. Like, hey, look at that. He's got. I text someone this morning. What a moment for the franchise. Yeah. It was the moment where Sabonis is looking over, and then he comes up with that smile, and everyone's like, oh. It was a moment where it was like, oh, all right. Yeah. We saw that smile once before.
Yeah.
We saw that smile when he got traded to Sacramento. Keep that smile, keep that energy, keep that guy happy, and that clearly made him happy. It was such a good moment for the franchise.
Franchise needed it too. Fan base needed it. We've haven't had a lot of good moments. I know they hired Mike Brown. A lot of people were happy with that, but it was more hiring Mike Brown and getting that coach was more of a relief due to some of the stories that had came out, about power struggle and Vivek wanted Mark Jackson. And when they signed Mike Brown, it was more like, whew, well, let him do what he wanted to do. It wasn't a lot of excitement, right? Yesterday was exciting. Yesterday had excitement. It was like, wow, we best thing I could say, we got a chance. We got a chance. We got a chance to get somebody that can help us turn all of this around. And I didn't think that everybody felt that way with the 7 pick. They're like, we're in no man's land, or the 7 pick, we should have tanked and got. Oh, and that reminds me, where the tank crowd at? Where the tank crowd at? Y'all told me we should lose the last 20 games of the season because that was going to get us in the top 4, top 3, whatever the case may be. No, and
play it out.
Portland spent the whole year, the whole season, trying to get in the top 3 and tank. And, well, they got 7th. So, sorry for him. I don't know if this guy was in the pro tank crowd. I feel like he might have been, but I don't know. We got my main man, Brendan Nunez, in the house, the HBK. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. I was definitely pro tank, to be honest. Maybe not this season, but in the past, and generally, I usually am falling to pro tank. Yeah,
I'm having a good time with all these guys, man. I understand what everybody was talking about with tank and everything. I get it, but this is just more confirmation. There's no guarantees when it comes to the lottery, man. You just go out there, and whether you win or whether you're losing, you hope for the best. Indiana fell back. Where's Stat Muse? Where's Stat Muse at? They was talking about Indiana tanking, doing the right thing, and they got the same. Kings won the same amount. Well, the Kings move up in the lottery. We having fun with it today because they was talking crazy about tanking all the whole last couple months. We having fun with it today, but that's neither here nor there.
Where are you at right now, Kenny? You seem like you'd be a Jaden Ivey guy. I don't know if I'm off on that.
Do you know me? Do you follow me on Twitter at all? What have I been doing for the last 20 hours? But trying to get everybody to understand there's one pick and one pick only. I don't really feel that way. Like I would be excited with any of the 3 that you talk about, Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray, and my guy, Shaedon Sharpe. But I think Shaedon, that's what we've been waiting for here. That's what we've been waiting for. We talk about I have epiphany and I see Dame Lillard and I say, yo, this guy, he can score from all three levels, man. That's what we need. We watch Jason Tatum. We watch Paul George. We watch Bradley Beal. Damn, man, we ain't never had nobody like that here. And I'm not saying that that's what Shaedon Sharpe is going to be. That's the mold of what he could be. And we like almost, well, Luka, but other than that, we almost never even have an opportunity to get these guys. These guys are always gone before the Kings get to draft. We don't get them in trades. We obviously can't get them in free agency. Here's your chance. I'm swinging for the fences, man. What you think about that, B?
Yeah, I think at the top, you kind of have to swing for the fences. I mean, I get that the Kings can't miss, but also to your point, like, when are they going to have another opportunity to get a star caliber player? I still got to decide if I think Sharpe is that type of guy. I just got to put more hours into apparently high school film, which is going to be fun, let me tell you. But so I still got to decide if Sharpe is that type of guy. But if that sort of upside is there, I mean, there's only so many opportunities the Sacramento Kings get as a franchise to acquire potentially superstar, like star caliber players. So if Sharpe falls into that, like, it's hard to overlook it. And I think some people could think that Ivy falls into that.
Understandably.
Star caliber, like the space creation that you see, the athleticism that rivals De'Aaron Fox, John Morant. Like, I definitely see the intrigue there, and it's kind of hard to pass on upside when you're at the top of the draft.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Brendan, I think the biggest question is, did you do your homework last night?
I was told to not do it last night and to do it today.
No.
What was the one that you guys, I was listening, what was the new one that's on his list?
There's someone Mary.
There's something about Mary he still hasn't watched.
Sean came up with one yesterday. I can't remember. So
we did say, so I married an axe murderer, but there's also, Sean did come up with one that you were supposed to watch. He writes them down. Like, it's good.
I didn't write down yesterday's, to be honest. I'm gonna get caught up.
The education of Brendan Nunez that we try to provide at the Kings Beat. Brendan, when we look at a player like Sharpe, right? It's not that long ago that all we had to go off of was high school footage for high school players that were coming straight into the draft. So why do you think it is that, I know this is probably before you were born, that high school players were allowed to come directly into the draft, but why do you think it is that we're starting to see that that be scrutinized so much? Because, again, I mean, LeBron James, Tracy McGrady, Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett. Like, there are a lot of guys who came straight in from high school into the pro game, and there wasn't this stigma that, oh, man, I got to watch high school footage.
Yeah, I think that it was just more normal and accepted probably at the time, and guys were watching high school film with the idea of, okay, should this guy just be taken now and skip the college process, as sometimes a little bit more of a risk, or like drafting in advance so that way, maybe if we take him out of high school, he'll still be available at the early teens. But if we think he's going to have a great year in college, if he goes next year, I bought my dog a new toy yesterday, and it was not a good idea, let me tell you.
You chose poorly.
Yeah, I didn't think it through at the store.
That's from Indiana Jones, just so you know. The Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
I got Indiana Jones, to be fair. I think that just those guys, like, the talent is so obvious that at the time, and also because coming out of high school was normal and just what happened at the time for guys that were supreme talents, but they were so just ahead of their class that it was stand out, like, this guy is going to be a star pretty much. And maybe there's a couple outliers of guys that were taken out of high school that didn't pan out that way, but like, Sharpe's name wasn't one I had heard years in advance, like Victor Wembanyama, or however you pronounce that last name. I absolutely butchered it, but like, there's these generational talents that of for years, like LeBron, KG, those type of guys. I think this Victor that's coming into the next draft class, the French kid. So I think that I just hadn't heard Sharpe in that same way. And since I think it was expected at this point that you get a little bit of college time with these prospects, that it's just a little different.
Not to mention, Brendan, it's scary. It's scary being like, yo, this kid in high school against kids who, are going to be playing intramural next year, not even on the college team. They're going to be playing intramurals and at 24 on Saturday mornings. They're dominating these guys. It's hard to get an evaluation for them. So I know I'm big on Shaedon Sharpe, and I know why I am. I completely understand people that are like, pump the brakes, man. We're talking EYBL. We're talking high school. Like I get it. I completely get it. And I understand the caution that people have with just jumping in to Shaedon Sharpe the way that I have. I just look at the skill set. I look at the measurables, the wingspan, all this other stuff, and the shot. That's really what gets me. Like when I see him shoot, I think that's transferable. I think that can, especially at 18, 19 years old, he can do that and more as he moves along. And I look at Ivy, and I don't know if the shot is going to come along. Like I almost see De'Aaron Fox. Like I see Ja, but I almost see De'Aaron Fox. And there's things about Fox's game today, 5 years into his career, that we're like, I don't think he's ever going to get better at that. We hoped when we drafted that, he was going to be a better free throw shooter or he was going to be a better jump shooter. Here we are 5 years in, it's not there. And that worries me as well. But I like those guys too.
Yeah, and look, I'm looking, Soren Smith brings up Kwame Brown, Eddie Curry, but the other name he brings up is Martell Webster. Shaedon Sharpe, like, again, we can start doing comparisons. Like, Martell Webster might be a comp.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he might be one of those players who didn't work out at all at the NBA level. But again, he was young. We got to watch a bunch of tape. We looked at measurements, and he did all of the things that you would think that a star level player would be. And then I think he went number 6.
I think he was higher than that. I think he was 3.
I'm not sure. It's
been
maybe, yeah. So my point is, like, it's an unknown. Like, when you're drafting this way, it is a sort of a shot in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be worth it. Brennan, what do you think? Like, we've talked about value, but like, and we even talked about trading and keeping the pick last night on the pod. But when you look at this spot here at 4, just how much value do you think the Kings increased with by going from 7 to 4?
I mean, it's a definite jump in value. I think it's weird because it's maybe not as much as what typically jumping from 4 to 7 would be. It's still, like, undeniably an increase in value. There's no two ways about it, but I do kind of buy into the whole 3-man draft. And what it's going to take is a team really valuing Sharpe or Ivy and valuing the number 4 spot because they like one of those 2 prospects. And there's just no guarantees that anyone's going to fall in love with those 2 guys or feel like they couldn't go to Detroit if they did like one of those guys and maybe they're available at pick 5. Like, so I don't think it's a ginormous jump, but I do think it helps in just the course of this offseason with McNair and Wes Wilcox and the assets that they have to work with. And the interesting aspect to me with Sharpe is how much access is he going to give all these teams? Like, how many workouts is he going to do with all of these guys? Is he going to do individual ones for the teams in the top 5? Or are they all going to have to come to him at his own individual pro day? Like, how much are Wes Wilcox and Monty McNair going to be given an opportunity to really understand Sharpe as a player, as a person? Like, are they actually going to see him get runs in against some of these other top prospects? Like, that's what's going to be interesting to me, because if they take Sharpe, I have to trust that they did their background, and they're going to have so much more opportunity to do background on Sharpe and get information on him from third-party people or direct workouts if that is the case. But it's going to be interesting to me to see the type of availability that Sharpe gives to teams in this process.
You're listening to ESPN 1320 KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, an Odyssey station, and driven by Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge. It's Kenny Caraway. It's James Ham riding with me. Shotgun today. Damien's out for the day. We got Brendan Nunez, a heartbreak kid from the Kings Herald, on as we talk about the Kings moving up to number 4 in the draft. I want to say one thing before I get to the question I have for Brendan. With Soren talking about, the failed high school guys. And I get it. I understand that. For every Kobe and KG, there's a Martell Webster. There's a Corleone Young. I get it. Don't get it twisted. But how many great college players do we see come into the NBA and do nothing? How good was Jimmer Fredette in college? How good was Nick Stauskas in college? Like we see this all the time. And this is what the draft is, right? The draft is a crapshoot. The draft is evaluating these guys and really doing the best that you can, but hoping that they reach the potential that you may have set for them. There's nobody, whether it's Shaedon Sharpe, Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray, who's a sure thing, or most of these guys aren't sure things. You know what I mean? Kevin Durant, LeBron James, all those guys. Yeah, we see that. Aldrin brings in Thomas Robinson, was another guy that was an All-American Player of the Year in college at Kansas. And from game one, it was clear that he wasn't able to play in the NBA. So those things happen, and we can pick these guys apart and line them up with guys that didn't work or guys that did work all day long. But at the end of the day, I just feel like it's all an educated guess. That's all it really is an educated guess, and you got to hope that these guys reach the potential that you set for them, right, Brendan?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you have favorites that you feel really good about in the draft, then I think more often than not, like, trust your gut. As long as there's good research behind your reasoning and everything. Like, I'm not all opposed to, like, I think Jabari Smith Jr. is perfect for this team. And I really like Chet Holmgren as well. Like, I really would consider packaging the 5th overall pick and, say, a top 4 protected 2023 first to move up and get Chet or Jabari. Like, I understand the risk involved. Like, the next draft is really promising at the top with Victor from France, and then you got Scoot Henderson. Like, I know the guys at the top of the next draft are really intriguing, but at some point, like, I think the Kings got to use some of these assets and really make something happen right now. And if they believe in somebody like Jabari or Chet, like, I don't think that's out of the question.
No. I look at those 3 guys at the top, and James talked about this a little bit, and I could see them even falling. I don't think Jabari would be the one to fall. I think it may be somebody like Paolo, who somebody could be in love with. Jaden Ivey, somebody could be in love with Shaedon Sharpe and take that potential, and maybe Paolo would be the one that falls down. And I think Paolo would be a great fit here for the Kings. And James talked about it. You're just in a really good spot in this particular draft at the 4 because you have so many options. You got so many things that could happen as far as people falling down, somebody trying to move up, and being able to kind of maneuver around that. It's a really good spot for the Kings to be in this year.
Yeah, Kenny, and I think every day, like, moving forward, we're going to gather more and more information on all these prospects. So, like, someone mentioned it in the chatty house, but the NBA is starting to release the combine measurements, and, like, Shaedon Sharpe just came in at 6'4" and a quarter without shoes on, and so he all of a sudden isn't a small forward. He's a shooting guard.
James, when that happens, he's never going to play without shoes.
Well,
So
of course.
I'm almost not sure why they even measure without shoes. Like,
Well,
he never
but
played.
I remember when Hassan Whiteside showed up in flip flops and didn't measure 7 foot tall because he measured at 6'11" and 3/4 because he was wearing flip flops and not tennis shoes. So there is a difference between being a 7-footer and not being a 7-footer, but still, like, that puts him at 6'6". At best, and 6'6", and his wingspan 6'11" and 3.5. So I mean, that's a huge, like a +7, height to wingspan. That's tremendous. But again, he's more of a shooting guard going forward than he is a small forward, and that does change the calculus a little bit on him. And I think we're going to find out more and more as we're going through this process, like how tall guys are, how can they lift it all? Their speed and agility, it doesn't look like much, but those things do actually tell you something specifically on the defensive end. And I think this is a good point to, like, start mulling through. I know that, like, I've heard concerns that the Kings don't believe, and other teams don't believe that Keegan Murray is as tall as they've said he is. and so they're waiting to figure out what exactly the measurements come in at before they make a true sort of assessment on the whole package.
Mm-hmm.
James, one thing I'm curious about, do you think that if the Kings say they really like Ivy, and that's the guy at 4 for them, the other 3 that we assume are gone are, that being Paulo, Chet, and Jabari, but while they do really like Ivy, they think that he's not a great fit alongside Fox and Sabonis. Do you think that we know, based on like the previous drafts that we've seen from McNair, like what that sort of scenario would lead to? Do you think that they'd be willing to just take the guy that they think is more talented, even if the fit isn't there? I mean, it's kind of fault to me could revolve back to McNair having and Wes Wilcox having possibly 1 year left on their contract.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up that specific thing. What you don't want here is a general manager and assistant general manager to make a decision on this draft pick based on their futures with the team. That's another reason, along a myriad of other reasons, why the Kings should at this point go and extend Monty and Wes. To me, without any question. I mean, you just let them hire a coach. They need to have a contract. What you don't want them to do is just to make a knee-jerk reaction, because I could make the argument very clearly that you could trade the 4th pick for Jeremy Grant, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's not good." Well, does that make your team better? Yes, it does. It makes it better next year. Mm-hmm. And so when you put someone in a position to make a rash decision to save their own job, then that's on you. That's not on them for making that decision. You would hope that they would have like a very, very, good heart and thinking about the future of the franchise more than their own future. But that's just not the reality. That's just not the reality at all. So, yeah, I mean, you have to manage this thing properly. Like it's difficult. Like, but I get the question. This is a point where the franchise can make mistakes very easily, and they need to be all on the same page moving forward.
Brendan, you're absolutely allowed to change this 15 times if you need to before the June NBA draft. But today, who are you taking at number 4 if you're the Sacramento Kings?
Assuming that Jabari, Chet, and Paulo are gone, I'm going Jaden Ivey. Okay. The athleticism is too tantalizing. It pops off the screen. And I think that there's the idea with Ivy that he has all the things you can't teach, and the areas that he needs to improve are typically more teachable skills, is kind of what I'm subscribing to right now. The flashes of space creation do it for me. I'm buying in the 35% from 3. He shot 52.2% effective field goal percentage on catch and shoots. Like, I see how it could work on offense, and hard to pass on star ceiling to me.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I might take you up on changing that a couple times over before June 23rd.
I'm shading right now, but I like Jaden Ivey. Like he's amazing. He's fun to watch. He's a blur out there. And I say that he's a lot like De'Aaron Fox. I'm maybe in the minority with that's not a bad thing. I love watching De'Aaron Fox when he's clicking and when he's on. He's a fun player. He is great on the offensive end. He has the ability to do things on the defensive end, and that's the same things that I see out of Ivy. Like I think he has a lot of those same attributes. So if the Kings went with him, hey man, I'd be all for it. I'd be so excited to see him with the Sacramento Kings, man. Am I mistaken, or did you change that? Were you on Keegan Murray a lot of the time, or were you always on Ivy?
I was probably on Murray when they were sitting around 7, but with 4, I think I was on Ivy. I'm probably trade the pick, to be honest, but it depends what, that's all circumstantial based on what is and isn't available.
The price has gone up, Brendan. The price has gone up for that. All right, that's what I'm telling everybody that's calling me. The price is going up. Once again, Fat Joe said it best. Yesterday's price is not today's price. All right, that's just what it is. So, Brendan, We appreciate you pulling up, man. You can check him out at the Kings Herald, man. You can check him out on the Kings Beat every now and then with James Ham. I love listening to you guys, man. You guys are doing a great job with that. HBK, we appreciate you, big dog.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
No doubt, man. We coming back. Myself, James Ham. More Kings talk. We got to talk about game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. That was something to watch last night in Miami. We'll get into all of that and a little bit more right here. D-Lo and KC. No Damian today. It's James rolling with me. We'll be right back on ESPN 1320. Appreciate you, B.
Of course, guys. Glad to do it.
What happened to the dog? How'd he calm down?
I don't know. She tired herself out, I guess.
Knocked out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
Out.
He's just running around crazy.
Knocked out.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
That's funny. Someone posted that Shaedon Sharpe put up a 49-inch vert. I haven't seen that yet, though.
Yeah, I remember.
That would break the.
I saw he broke the record for the whole.
Man.
Yeah, as of right now, like the max vert is Kennedy Chandler at 41.5, Jalen Williams at 39.
Kennedy Chandler.
That's what you can do when you can jump and have long arms. You can do crazy things like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, this is fun. This is that point where you need to see the stats come in on some of these guys. Just their basics. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I wanted Anthro. There we go. Anthro. Yeah, Akai Agbaji, 6'10" and a 1/4-inch wingspan. Oh, Patrick Baldwin, 7'1" and 3/4 wingspan, and he measured it at 6'9" and a 1/4 without shoes, 6'10", but again 6'10" and a 1/4. If he wears the right shoes, he comes in at 6'11". Like, come on, man!
You gotta wear the right shoes.
Tell everybody you're 6'11", Patrick Baldwin Jr. Yeah. And then I hate that some of these guys they won't go do the measurements and stuff. Oof. Marjan Bulkamp, 6'5" and a 1/4 without shoes, 7 foot and 3/4-inch wingspan.
Wow. Bulkamp.
Yikes.
Wow, that name sounds familiar.
He's a G League.
Yeah, that's right.
He's one of the G League guys.
Mark Williams has a 7'6" and a half wingspan.
I love Mark Williams, but it's just like a true rim runner. The Kings don't need him, but and he had major foul trouble in the tournament.
Tari Eason, a 7'2" wingspan. Oof.
Wow. Yeah, but what did Tari Eason measure in at?
6'6" and 3/4.
Yeah, that was always a problem. That
I don't think any of these guys are ever the height that they say until they measure them, there.
Right.
Oh yeah, totally.
They're never. I was 6 foot at Cal State Hayward.
That's what they had you listed as?
Yeah. That's what I go by. The internet says I'm 6 foot.
There you go. That's all you need.
Although,
all right, guys.
See you later, Brendan. We appreciate you.
All right, I'm going to run now. I'll talk to you later. No problem. Bye.
Although somebody brought up a good point one time when, people are always like, oh, no, I'm actually taller than, I'm supposed to be or whatever. If I say I'm 6 foot, but I'm really like 5'10", he would be like, well, why would you want to be 6 foot? Wouldn't it be more impressive that you're doing these things at 5'10" than you are 6 foot? That's a good funny point, but that's not the way these things work.
No. No. Nikola Jovic, 6'9" and a half without shoes, 6'11". He's a skinny small forward. 6'11" with a 7 foot wingspan. Wow. Man, that's big time. Yeah. Oh, but then, again, like Trevor Keels comes in at 6'3" and a 1/4. Yeesh. Ooh, Walker Kessler, a true 7-footer with a 7'4".
From Auburn, right?
Yeah, he's a shot blocking crazy.
I like him.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I kind of like. I think he actually probably hurt Jabari Smith Jr.'s his value because he blocked so many shots that Jabari didn't have to go down there and do all that.
Those guards hurt him too.
Yeah, Well, he's probably a better shooter than you think. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here we go,
S-
James. Here we
All
go.
right.
Back here on D-Lo and KC. No Damian today. He's got the day off, man. Big ups to him. But I got James Ham with me. You know, we go crazy with James on him for an hour. Even on here for, he's gonna be here for the whole 4 hours today. It's really gonna go crazy. And he's on with us today on one of the this is sad to say, to be honest with you. One of the great moments in Kings history in the last 15, 20 years. Is that safe to say?
Uh,
Top
that's
five.
that's horrible.
That is.
Yeah.
They didn't even get number one. They moved to 4, and we're like, it's one of the great moments ever.
Yeah. I mean, you got to celebrate the little things, right?
That's
I
right.
guess.
That's
I
right.
guess you got to celebrate the little things.
That's how you got to do it. Real quick, I wanted to get your take on this real quick. I think we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when it was rumored, but it's official now. California Classic going to Chase Center, going to San Francisco. That sucks. That sucks. And I thought you said that, and I think you did. I just want you to break it down. That essentially the Kings created the California Classic. So if they created it, how did the Warriors take it?
I think they just worked out a thing where they're going to switch out. It's going to rove, which I mean, for me, that's not great.
Road between those two, or like all 4? Well, it wouldn't be Miami, but
Well, yeah. Well, that's going to be the question, right? So they haven't had the Clippers as part of it. It's been the Lakers, right? It's the Lakers, the Warriors, the Kings, and the Miami Heat, which is always strange that the Miami Heat are thrown in there. But I just think it's such a great event, especially in downtown Sacramento in the middle of summer. It gives you something to do. We'll probably all carpool down, me and Brendan there, and maybe Sean.
Yeah.
And
And one thing I was going to say, I will say this about the new California Classic in San Francisco. It is on the weekend this time, so it does give people from Sacramento an opportunity to go down and check it out. I think it's July 4th weekend. The 4th of July is on a Monday. I think it's on the 2nd and 3rd of July, so Saturday and Sunday. So, all is not lost. I really would have been upset if it was in the middle of the week down there. That would have really upset me. But all right. It's on the weekend. You get to go down there if you want to check out Shaden Sharp in his first, appearance with the Sacramento Kings. Speaking,
yeah, that's right. 6'4", Shaden Sharp, with his 49-inch vert.
6'6", so he's 6'6".
Yeah, we're just gonna give him the shoes. Yeah, they you're right. They don't play without shoes.
49-inch vertical is crazy. Wow.
Yeah,
Nice in the history of the combine, right?
well, that's not his combine measurement, the 49-inch vert, but there is a video of him like skying. Yeah, we'll have to get to it. A lot of these guys have just incredible athleticism. But to me, is it functional athleticism? Because I watch a guy like AJ Griffin, and he's supposed to have a tremendous vert, well over 40-inch vert, and he plays below the rim the whole time, so it doesn't really matter. Like unless you watch him get up to block a shot, or all of a sudden he skies in big for a rebound. But like when he attacks the rim, he doesn't use his athleticism at all, unless he's breaking out, if he's on the break and doing stuff like that. So,
James, with the Kings at 4, I'm just assuming right now that they're keeping the pick. There's a lot of things we talked about that come about with this, but let's say, like I said, they say they keep the pick. Is it really a 3-player race for that 4th pick, in your opinion, or is there somebody that we're not talking about? When I say 3 players, I'm talking Shaden Sharp, I'm talking Jaden Ivey, and I'm talking Keegan Murray. Is there somebody that we're not looking at that might be able to get into that 4 range?
I mean, to be honest with you, like Keegan Murray isn't anywhere near the 4 pick for me.
What's up with Keegan? Why you feel that way?
I just, watching him play, like he's interesting, and I think he'll be a solid rotational player in the NBA, but I don't think that there's plus rotational player there. He's not going to be a plus starter in my opinion. I mean, I might be way off, but like if at the pro level, if he reaches, again, Sadiq Bey range, that's a really good player. And Sadiq went he went where you usually get guys like that, guys who are solid players. And maybe I'm crazy. I mean, he put up a bunch of points in college. I just didn't buy a lot of the stats. Like watching him play, can he shoot the three? Sure, he can shoot the three. But he also shot the three better like in stints in the tournament than he had all season long.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, okay, is that repeatable? Is that something that's going to be there long term? I heard all about this defending multiple positions. I didn't see it. I didn't see him move a lot. Like his instincts didn't just blow me away. You watch Tyrese Halliburton, it takes you 2 seconds to know that his instincts are just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way he cuts off a pass on the baseline and steals passes on the baseline all the time, the way he jumps passing lanes. Anyway, he just really does have a lot of it just a tremendous basketball IQ. It jumps off the table, off the screen, like when you're watching it. And then when I look at Murray, it's like, okay, I see who you can be. You can be Trevor Ariza, maybe. You can be a solid NBA, but those types of players usually go between like 12 and 18 in the draft. They don't go number 4. They don't go number 8. Like, I don't think his potential is to be a 20 point a game scorer. I don't think his potential is as high as Harrison Barnes. So just maybe I'm wrong and I'm just missing it. But I definitely, I think he's a perfectly fine prospect. And if you're building a team, he can fit into your rotation and probably be there for a long time. But at the same time, when you're drafting in number 4, that's not what you're going for. You're swinging for the fences because you're trying to get an elite weapon. And if you can't, you don't think that pick is there, but someone else might think it is, and you need to trade with that other team and go get some other assets.
And the thing with Keegan Murray, because there are things that I like about his game. He kind of reminds me a little bit. You see different comps of Al Horford. Yeah, I kind of see that. I think Horford plays a little bigger than Keegan Murray. You know what I'm saying? Horford is almost a center. You know what I mean?
Well, he was a center for most of his career.
Yeah. Well, in Atlanta, he was a center. Him and Zaza would be, in that front court. I don't know if he plays as big as Al Horford, but I see the shot. I like some of the things that he does. The thing with Murray, then you mentioned it a little bit, is if you're taking him at 7 or 8, yeah, I understand that. I got you. We could work with that. If you're taking him at 4 and you're passing on potential superstars like Shaden and Jaden Ivey, man, it's hard to wrap my brain around. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier with Shaden, and then you could probably throw Jaden Ivey in this situation as well. If I take those two guys, or in my case, if I take Shaden and he doesn't work out, I can live with that. I can. I'll be like, you know what? There was a huge potential right here, a huge possible ceiling. He didn't make it. He didn't come close to the ceiling. That's the way it goes. If I take Keegan Murray and Shaden becomes what I thought he could be, or even Jaden Ivey, man, I can't live with. I can't rock with that. I'll be like, man, why? Keegan's cool, but why didn't I just trust my gut and go with the high upside? And those are the decisions that you have to make it for. That may keep Monty and Wes Wilcox up all night long, every night until we get to the draft and after.
No, I think so too. I mean, really, the number 4 pick is such a valuable pick. I mean, you do have to swing for the fences. So while I don't believe that Sharp or Ivy, either one, have superstar potential, I think they could have star potential. Like, there's a big distinction there. Maybe I'm wrong, but like when I look at those guys play, I'm like, okay, that's good. But it's gonna take 2-3 years for them to get to the point where they can contribute in that way. Like, very rarely do we see players come in that just automatically make this huge difference And I mean, there are some points, but even like look at Cade Cunningham last year. At Cade Cunningham, everyone, believed he would be a superstar coming into the league. And he's really good, but you're starting to wonder if he can be a superstar. And maybe I'm wrong, but like he didn't put up numbers that would lead you to believe that he's going to be a superstar. An all-star? Sure. But a superstar is something different, and that's where, Luka jumps into the league and is putting up 25 a game like
Right.
instantly, and you're like, oh my goodness, what in the world?
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like again, I really do like, I like Keegan Murray as a potential guy for the Kings to draft, just not this high, and I didn't even like him at 7. I've compared him to Marvin Williams, who's a perfectly fine player.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, when you take those guys, you know what you're getting is what I think the point is. And there are a lot of guys in this draft that they might have a whole lot more in their bag than what you're getting there.
All right. And I'm gonna make sure to be aware of this because it's part of the job and it's part of the evaluation, but it's not something that I really am fond of. And we're gonna get into it with this being the 4th pick and everything. So many people spend so many times talking about what these guys can't do and why they shouldn't be. And I'm going to try and check myself on that, as we go through this whole process, because I think Keegan Murray's a really good ball player. And I think, there's things that he could do that could be a good fit for the Kings. If I had to pick, I would just pick another guy. But that doesn't mean Keegan Murray is going to be a bum or, he's not going to translate or anything like that. It's just in this particular situation, this is where I would go. Same with Shaden. Same with Jaden Ivey. People are going to spend so much time looking at reasons why they shouldn't be the pick and why they shouldn't do that. I think I look at it the complete opposite way. You potentially have, if we just talk about these 3 guys, you got a chance to get a really good ball player. Like, maybe that's too pie in the sky to say, but man, you almost can't miss. I think all 3 of these guys are going to be good in the NBA. Maybe one will be better than the other or whatever. But I think this is why I'm so excited about the Kings landing at 4 is I think you're getting a good ball player if you keep the pick, if you draft. I think you're getting a good young dude, man. And I like to look at that and embrace that more than to get in debates as to why this guy won't work or this guy won't. You know what I mean? It's just not really what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this too. I think that there's a very good opportunity here for either Ivy or Sharp to jump into the top 3 and push one of these bigs to the Kings. And so that's why you have to be malleable here. You've got to be able to watch. You got to be able to watch them and see where, like be patient. Like there's no reason to rush until you're on the clock. And then you're rushing. But at that point, you should already have like 5 different things set up.
Right.
5 different options set up. And so I really do think that that's where you should look. And, again, people think that the Marvin Williams comp is a bad comp. Wasn't Marvin Williams like the 3rd pick in the draft?
Yeah, I think the 2nd went to Atlanta.
Second pick in the draft.
With like 4 first-round picks or something on that team. Like, yeah, he averaged 11 because they had Sean May and all these other guys who were projected to go in the 1st round playing with them as well. And he went the highest of them all. I think he went highest. He was.
Yeah, I think he was too. Right? Yeah. And again, the reason I bring him up is because body style, body movement, the way that, every once in a while, both of them will throw down a dunk that you just go, oh my gosh, like, holy cow. But it's like once every 2 games where they do something that they flash their athleticism that they have. And so that's why I like, and it's not that I dislike him as a prospect. I try to like relate him to who it is that I think that they look like and how they could work in the league. And I've watched the league a long time and covered the draft a long time. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not. I did not like Franz Wagner last year, and I was wrong. But I still think that there's a lot of value there. This is what I kept saying. There's a lot of value for him as a 4, because I think that's where he'll be long term.
Right.
But at that point in the draft, there was a lot of other players that I liked a lot, including Josh Giddey, who ended up jumping way ahead of where we thought he would go.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun draft. A couple of things I wanted to ask you pertaining to this draft. First, I got to give a shout out to our guy Matt George, Matty McQueen. You know what I mean? He came up with a great question the other day on the show, and he was talking about the number 1 pick, but I think it still equates with the Kings having a 4 pick, and that's trading it away. And he asked with the number 1 pick, what's the floor for what you would trade that pick for? And we were talking about the number 1 pick, and his guys were like, the lowest person that I would trade that pick for is a Jaylen Brown or Brandon Ingram, somebody like that. I don't think you have that same type of leverage at the 4, but still, now there's a 4. That floor has raised from where it was when you thought you were 7 or 8. What's the lowest type of guy that you would trade for? Is John Collins still on that list of guys that you would trade the 4 for, or has that changed a little bit?
No, I mean, I think like John Collins, like what I'm looking for there is a frontline NBA starter that is either an all-star level player or has all-star potential, is young and under contract, right?
You thought maybe at least 2 years, right?
Yeah, I would say even more. Like if you're giving up the 4th pick, you better have like a 3-4 year deal. Like it's got to be someone that's going to be there, or that you have full control over, right? So you could have a guy in his 3rd NBA season with his 4th year remaining, and then a free agent, and I mean, and then he's restricted and all that stuff. What's that?
Sound like Zion.
Yeah, well, see, I'm not trading for Zion because of the injuries, and like you have to be realistic. So again, like if I'm looking at like Brandon Ingram's not getting traded, and you can say the same thing about Jaylen Brown. I mean, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Neither of those guys are getting traded, so you have to be realistic, and that's why I think. When you look at John Collins, he's a player that is intriguing because he shoots the 3 ball. He can block shots. He's a good rebounder for his position. He can be a 20 and 10 guy if you need it. He can be a really, really good 2nd or 3rd scorer. And that's why I think John Collins just makes a ton of sense to me. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not going to be elite.
You would trade the 4 for John Collins?
I would probably...
That's the final spot. Like I would try to trade without, moving the 4. But if Atlanta was like, look, we can get this done only if you include the 4, you'd say, okay. I'm on the fence. I don't know. Some moments I'm like, yeah, I would. And then other moments I'm like, I don't know. But you would.
I might need something more. And it would also, what am I giving up? Like I'm not giving up the 4 and Harrison Barnes in that deal. I would give up the 4 and like a package that made sense, that we could, get up to John Collins' salary, close to it, so the salaries match. But again, you're talking Rashawn Holmes, and you're talking Justin Holiday, and a couple of your $4 to $6 million player expiring contract guys. So that's where I would kind of push it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like that pick has a lot of value, and I'm going to maximize that value. And again, that could be moving from 4 to 5 and picking up Sadiq Bey if somehow they would do that. And maybe you got to throw in a 2nd round pick, right, to balance it. And then I'm sitting there at 5, and I'm still not in love with 5. So now I move back again, and I take on another player. Could you go 5 to 10 and pick up Kyle Kuzma? Maybe not, but maybe you could. And so now I'm looking at a team that has 2 players that are really good, and I still have the 10th pick in the draft, and I can still take a swing. But again, I don't like. I'll keep saying this: the Kings roster makeup is bad. Like as of right now, it's bad. So you have all these expiring contracts, but the only real way to get young players is to draft young players. I mean, most teams don't just give away young players freely.
Right.
And the Kings don't have any young players. They don't. They have Neemias Queta, and they have Davion Mitchell, and they've got De'Aaron Fox and Dante DiVincenzo, and all of those guys are like 22 and above.
Right.
Like they don't have anything coming up. And so when you look at the unbalance of their roster, like look at a team like Charlotte, we talked about it. They got, super fun guys that are super young and Ball and Bridges, right? But then on top of that, they've got PJ Washington and they've got Book Knight and Kai Jones. They have like some stuff brewing for the future. You look at the Warriors. The Warriors have younger players than the Kings do, like
Right.
all kinds of them,
Yeah.
and high end young players. And so the Kings are in this weird spot where they're like most of their players are like 24, 25 and up.
Mhm.
And that's uncomfortable. So they need to draft really well here. They need to draft really well in the second round as well. Try to find somebody that fits long term that you can bring in and bring along and have them, become a rotational player at some point.
Yeah. So now we got Monty McNair and everything that comes along with that. This is it. There's just a lot that just keeps coming on with these Kings. Damian says it all the time, right? And he's like, I'm glad they're like at least they give us things to talk about. Like if they were Orlando, like bad and then not interesting and nothing going on, man, it's be a tough job talking about these guys all the time. At least the Kings give us something to talk about. So in the scenario, now we've got this situation with Monty McNair where some people believe his decision may in certain ways, and understandably so, be influenced by the extension that he does not have, the security that he does not have here in Sacramento. How much do you think that plays into his decision with what to do with his fourth pick?
Well, again, you hope that he's pure of heart and he's going to do what's best for the franchise no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is why you avoid these situations. Like, there aren't a bunch of GMs around the league that are doing like nefarious things on their way out the door. He's still going to be GMing for his next job, if that makes sense. He's not going to do something so rash that everyone just goes, oh man, we can't ever let that guy be a GM again because he just threw all caution to the wind and did something totally ridiculously.
And in your mind, sorry to cut you off, but in your mind, that would be like trading to be the 6th seed in the playoffs this year, right? Like something just throwing all caution to the wind, or is it drafting the project?
Well, no, I mean, if he drafts, trades for the 6th seed, that's great, but it's got to be the 6th seed that can be the 6th seed, the 4 seed, the 3 seed, and maybe playing for a championship in 5 years. Of 4 years. I mean, that's what you're looking for. Like, if he trades for someone to get them to the 6th seed, you can't trade for like a 32-year-old and hope that's under contract for a year and a half or something and think that you're going to make it. That's a good deal for the franchise long term.
Right.
And so you really have to be cautious. And that's where there's such a fine line here. Like if your core is the age that the Kings core is, you can take on a 28-year-old that's really, really good, like an all-star level 28-year-old. Again, like if Bradley Beal was under a longer contract and wanted to come to Sacramento, I'm not sure that he would want to come to Sacramento or anything else, but if Bradley Beal was available and they were looking at that 4th pick and saying, hey, look, we'll take, Davion and the 4th pick and, Rashawn Holmes and maybe a number 1, 2 years from now, right? That deal, like you would at least look at because he's not so old that you can't make that deal, but he's got to be under contract long term if you're making that. It's got to be like a trade and extend and trade. As it may be. But I mean, that's where they have so many options. I really do think that they have to see what the market bears out and where this market's going to go, and how much value that pick has. But you need to get a franchise changing piece here, and whether that piece is for today or it's for next year or the year after, like it's got to be really good. So either you're drafting for like a major franchise building piece that's going to grow with what you have, and you're drafting with that in mind, or you're going to go swing for the fences with a trade. And I don't think you do anything that is safe and Like at this point, like aggressive behavior has to happen. You got to go out there and get yourself a really, really, really good player. You have the 4th pick in the draft.
Right.
Like by hook or by crook, you better come away with a really, really good player. And again, that really good player, it could be that Paolo Banchero falls to the Kings at number 4,
Right.
and they have no choice but to say, "Man, we've got to take this kid." If Jabari Smith Jr. falls to the Kings at 4. These things could happen. Like it's not like it's impossible to see these things playing out. So you have to be, again, you got to be flexible. You got to be light on your feet. You've got to have like 5 or 6 options lined up, and then when push comes to shove, you got to make the right decision at the right time and help build this thing out.
This is a pleasant, unexpected, great surprise. Did not see this actually happen. I thought it would, but man, until Malik Andrews said, "Oh, and it means the Kings have moved into the top 4." I was like, let's go. We got a lot to talk about, not only today, but over the next month and a half. I don't even know, when is the draft, like June 23rd or something like that.
I think that's it.
So yeah, we got some things to talk about, but we got more to talk about when we come back. I still got questions about Monty McNair and what it means for this Kings franchise and the roster. I said we're going to talk about. Sorry, Jesse, we got to talk about it. We're talking about the Eastern Conference Game 1. What a performance in that third quarter by the Miami Heat. We'll get into that. Western Conference Finals Game 1 is tonight in San Francisco. We'll get into all of that. We didn't even talk about my girl at Nani. And once again, thank you, Adnani. We got to talk about her new role with the Sacramento Kings and everything that entailed. We didn't forget about that because we got 4. So much going on, man. Damian Barling out today, but my man James Hammond is riding with me. It's D'Lo and KC on ESPN 1320. Did the guy just get the ball and it was a fair ball? Oh, poor guy. The little ball dude got the ball.
Oh no! In the Giants game?
Yeah.
All right.
I've
got the A's and Giants game on in front of me.
I forgot the A's are going on today. Ooh, don't look like they'll be around to talk about anything.
I don't know what the score is in that game.
Yeah, the poor little ball dude just did his job, tossed it to a fan. Like, yeah, it's all good. And then the left fielder comes in and says, "Hey, that was in play."
Oh no! Ground rule double.
Yeah, I mean, no harm, no foul. It was going to be a double anyway. So,
well, and the Giants always have like the older dudes, right?
Yeah, the ball dudes. This is in Colorado, so it was a guy like maybe my age.
Oh, gotcha.
Doing it.
Gotcha.
No harm, no foul. It was going to be a double anyway.
Okay, so Benedict Mathurin measured in at 6'4.5" without shoes, 6'6" width, 6'9" wingspan. That's a good size shooting guard.
Yeah, he is.
But he's not really. He doesn't really have a small forward game. Yeah, Keegan Murray decided to not do the measurements. At least he hasn't yet. Same with all the top guys.
You know, I think you can go Shaden at the 3 in a 3-guard lineup. I think you can.
Maybe. I mean, you got to have strong defenders and stuff like that if you're doing that. Surprisingly, Drew Timme with shoes 6'9", he has a 7'2" wingspan.
Wow.
I didn't expect Drew Timme to have a 7'2" wingspan.
Wow.
Yeah, Mark Williams 7'6.5", almost 7'7" wingspan at 7 feet, 7'2" with shoes.
Jeez.
Ooh, 242.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. No, this is always fun. I always love looking at these. Like, I can look at these numbers for hours.
Links. Ivy or bust. All right.
Ivy's fun, but again, someone asked, like, why do I think he's a bad defender? It's like, I think he's a bad defender because I watched him defend.
Yeah, no, he's not a good defender.
No, his acumen is bad.
Yeah, he has the ability to, like, I've seen him make good defensive plays. It's just he's not always locked in on the defensive end.
Yeah, he's got the Tyreek Evans waiting for a bus thing. So
did Tyreek fall to the Kings
at 4?
Yeah, was he like projected to go higher? That was where he was at, or DeMarcus fell to the Kings. DeMarcus fell for sure. He was probably supposed to be top 2 and fell to
Well, yeah. I mean, Greg
it was
Monroe
a
went ahead of
ball.
him, I
Yeah.
believe, right?
Evans was the year Favors was ahead of him,
Oh
right?
no, that's who it was. Favors went ahead of Cousins.
Of Cousins. Okay.
Favors went ahead. He went at number 2. Yeah, so it was Blake Griffin. Tyreek's year was Blake Griffin, Hasheem Thabit, James
Mm.
Harden, Tyreek Evans, and then is the Ricky Rubio, Johnny Flynn
Steph Curry.
mistake, and then Brandon Jennings went number 10.
Yeah.
That's the year that like all the point guards like Ty Lawson at number 19, like that totally filled up the league with point guards. It was crazy.
Yeah. And they
I
were
think
all, well, they most, Rubio and Flynn were kind of, but Tyreek, Steph, and Brandon Jennings. People forget how good Brandon Jennings was.
yeah, for a couple. Well, so was Ty Lawson.
Ty Lawson was good too. Yeah.
Yeah, for a couple of minutes. Like they did not hold up long term, but they certainly were good for a short stint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should be coming back any second, James. Hold on 1 second.
All right.
Oh, yeah, about 20 seconds.
Yeah, Steph was the number 7 pick in that draft.
Yeah. Steph went to college, y'all. He went to college 3 years. So, that's a plus for all my college people.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on 1 second, James. Yeah. D-Lo and KC, brought to you by the good folks over at McQueen and the Violet Fog Gin. I'm absolutely had a Sacramento splash last night celebrating the fact that the Kings got the number 4 pick in the draft. It's Kenny Caraway. Damien's off for today. He's got the day off. But James Ham riding with us, man. We've had some great discussions about what this means for the Kings moving forward and just all the options, all the things at play for Sacramento having that number 4 pick. And there's still even more that I want to dive in with this draft pick. Monty McNair, we've seen 2 drafts from him right now. And we talk about Keegan Murray being a good fit. We talk about Jaden Ivey maybe being a good fit, maybe not. Shaedon Sharpe being this wild card or whatever the case may be. Is it safe to say, after only 2 drafts, and it's just 2 drafts, do you feel Monty is a best player available type guy? He's not really tripping off fit. He's not necessarily concerned with that. If he has another guy there that's clearly better, he's going to go with that guy. Do you think that's his MO in this draft? And does he continue that now with the 4?
Yeah. Okay. So I would love to tell everyone that, like he's a genius for drafting Tyrese Halliburton. But to be honest with you, Tyrese Halliburton should have gone like number 4 in the draft. The fact that he was available at number 12 was like shocking and like was a no-brainer pick. Now, that's not to take anything away from Monty. He made a great pick because that guy is really, really good. But there is a little bit of like, okay, look, let's be realistic here. There was no other pick to take right there. I mean, when the Suns decided to take Jalen Smith at number 10, then you knew the Kings were either going to get Devin Vassell or they were going to get Tyrese Halliburton. And so that was really, really like a moment.
Not to say that Tyrese is this guy, but what's my man's name in OKC, the general manager?
Sam Presti?
Sam Presti. Sam Presti didn't pull a rabbit out of his hat by drafting Kevin Durant too. Right? Like if it wasn't if Kevin Durant didn't go 1, he would have took. If Kevin Durant went 1, he would have took Greg Oden. Greg Oden went 1, so he took Kevin Durant. It was right there for him. That's kind of what the Monty situation was when he had Tyrese Halliburton sitting there for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shock. It was an absolute shock that he fell. Like I think I had him at like number 5 or number 6 coming into the day. In one of my final mocks that year, I think I did 23 mocks because it was a pandemic. But there were some issues, of course. Tyrese he had broken a bone in his wrist, I believe, during his sophomore year at Iowa State, and he missed half the season, and he hadn't played since January, and the draft wasn't until like October. So there was, some craziness there as to why He might have fallen. His agent did not want him to go to a couple of places and would not give medicals. So there was some gamesmanship going there. But at the end of the day, like, look, it's a good pick. It's an excellent pick, but it also was like, if you didn't make that selection, what are you doing? And then, when it came to Davion, I think Davion showed us something different about Monty. I think what that showed you is that he didn't just value like potential points, rebounds, assists. He valued something different, and that was the mentality that the Kings were lacking, the forcefulness, the defensive mindset, all of that stuff, the dog mentality that this team desperately needed. He valued a characteristic that doesn't necessarily show up on a stat sheet. And so I thought that that was an interesting pick. Again, we could make the argument that, whether he's made the right pick or not. Usually I like to give it a couple of years before you really make even, when it comes to players. And again, like Jalen Smith, like right this summer, if the Kings went out and signed Jalen Smith to a 3-year MLE, a mid-level exemption, and got him for a 3-year, $33 million deal, and he's your starting power forward for the next couple of years, you might actually be in good shape. He's super young. I think he's 21, and he just blew up for Indiana. So maybe he's grown up. Maybe he's ready to contribute now. So again, we know that, like, we judged early on Jalen Smith. Right. And kept pointing fingers. But at the same time, I'll tell you right now, if the Phoenix Suns had Tyrese Halliburton as their backup, that's working and growing behind Chris Paul and Devin Booker, he's that guy right there. Yeah. That team is even better. And they really could have been incredible. So yeah.
I think Monty. I think we don't know for sure. Like you said, you laid out why it's hard to put a label on him after 2 drafts, but I do think he goes with best player available in his mind. You know what I mean? That may not be everybody's best player available, but whatever's on his chart, whatever metric that he goes by, I think that is his general philosophy. Now, can that be, knocked off its access a little bit because, you have the 4 pick or trade or whatever? Yeah, it can be. But I think in general, I think that's the way he would look at it. And I think that's the way he's going to look at it here if he decides to keep the pick.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference, though, between drafting 9 and drafting 12 and drafting 4.
Yeah.
Like, just the whole mindset is different. Like, when you're drafting at 9, you're looking for a solid rotational player. When you're drafting at 12, you're hoping you get a solid rotational player, a guy who can actually maybe break into your starting lineup, maybe, and you're hoping, there's that potential that they're just more like a 7 or an 8. And that's where, again, Tyrese Halliburton, like, he was so toolsy in college, and you're wondering the whole time, will it translate? Will it translate? And sure enough, it translated beautifully. He's incredible. But again, there were question marks about whether he could get a shot off, whether he is strong enough to defend, whether he was a lead guard or a shooting guard. And so, like, there were plenty of questions. But when you're drafting at 9, you should be able to get a starter in the top 10. You should be able to get a starter. I'm not sure that he got a starter, but he got really close to it because I think Davion will be in the league for a long time, and he'll be top end of the rotation. You're probably the first guard off your bench for a long time. But when you're drafting at number 4, that's where it just gets, I mean, you have, I'll say this, you have to have the leeway to make the mistake. You have to have the ability to make a mistake right there. And like, we can trash, like, go back to the most incredible draft of all time, right? 2003. So we got LeBron, and then Darko goes number 3, and you end up with Carmelo, Chris Bosh at 4, and Wade at 5, right? I think that's the way they laid out. And the Pistons were like a championship team. If they would have drafted, Carmelo Anthony, which is what they should have done, like, they could have carried on that dynasty for a long.
Oh, is that just
on
me?
A heap.
There you go.
What's that?
I thought you froze up on my end. I'm not sure if everybody heard you.
Oh,
froze up on my
gotcha.
end. You're back now.
Okay. Yeah. So my point is that, like like, look, you have to give someone the leeway to make that move, because the same guy that built those championship teams in Detroit is the same guy that missed on like 3 Hall of Famers. And so, like, that's why I don't like that Monty McNair is going into this offseason without, as of right now, like, could that change tomorrow? Yes, it could change tomorrow. But as of right now, like, I know they have not had negotiations at all. And so, like, when is the phone call coming?
Right. So that's actually what I was going to ask you as well. Like, I know I was listening to you guys on the Kings beat, and I think Sean brought up, yeah, that might be something that you hear about in August or September when you talk about an extension for Monty McNair. But I don't know, things are, this isn't a normal situation. Like, if you might want to have those talks now, right? Like, and so he can approach the draft, approach free agency in a different way, if that's his case. Like you said, I believe he's a genuine guy. I believe, that might be the case, but you would hope that he would be able to just make a decision based on what would be best for this franchise, whether he's there or not. But he's also a human being. He's like, well, man, if they're saying I need to make the playoffs, then even though I would take Jaden Ivey, the pressure is making me trade the pick for John Collins. You know what I mean? Even though I don't think that's the best thing to do. So is it a situation where typically they may be having talks after or later in the summer that needs to speed up? And what's the prospects of that? Is that do you think that's something that's on Vivek Martindive's radar, that, I need to kind of change how I normally would do it, and we need to talk about an extension now? Whether they agree to have one now or not, the discussions need to be happening right now, right?
Yeah, I think they do, but again, they're going to handle things the way they want to handle them. I mean, we don't have a Mike Brown press conference yet, so typically that would be a good moment to say that they're going to be together long term. So we probably still have, probably 2 weeks at a minimum, right? So, like, how long are the Warriors going to go in the playoffs? The Warriors could keep going, right? So when it comes to this, like, it just takes sitting down and having the conversations. If that's what they want to do. If they don't want to do that, if they don't want to extend him, this is going to get really awkward. Like, that's not what anybody wants. And I think the other thing that might be missed here is that if you let them go into the season and the Kings start turning things around and you think that you're building something and all this stuff, who's to say that they want to come back? They're not under contract. Who's to say that they can't go get a better job out there because they just showed that they at least could turn around the worst franchise in the NBA? Like, it's not just a one-way street here. We're acting like it's the Kings have to give Monty a contract so they match up salaries with the coach, and that's the only reason. Yeah. Like, we're talking about stability, we're talking about all these things, but we're also talking about guys that, like, look, if you're successful here, like, there will be jobs open next summer for McNair and for Wes Wilcox. Mm-hmm. Like, why do you think that you're the only one that would employ these guys? Right. I mean, Monty McNair was in the league for 13 years working all kinds of jobs, all the way up to an assistant GM job in Houston. Like, he'll be able to bounce right back and go get another job somewhere else, or he could actually have his pick of jobs, and now you're competing for his services as opposed to where you are now. So yeah, it's a strange situation, and I just think that these things are avoidable, but they don't seem to be avoidable here.
And that's the thing that just baffles me. I don't get it. Real quick, you're listening to ESPN 1320 KFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, an Odyssey station, and driven by Lazarus Elk Grove Dodge. It's Kenny Caraway. It's James Ham here on D-Lo and KC filling in for Damian. Damian has the day off, but that's the thing that I don't understand, and it's like the coaching search and all this other stuff. What are you guys doing right now? Like, what are we doing? Vivek Ranadive, what are we doing that we can't even have a discussion? Me and James are having a discussion about an extension. You can't talk to Monty McNair and have talks. What?
They're all together in Chicago right now. They're all there at the combine.
What are we doing?
You don't think this group isn't going out to dinner? I don't know, but there's an elephant in the room.
I don't understand it, man. I really don't. These are the things that I know basketball and front offices is a different building or a different business, and they go about things a little differently. But this is just common sense. Like the fact that, like I should know definitively right now if I'm Monty McNair whether I'm being offered something or not. Vivek Ranadive, I should know definitively whether or not Monty McNair is willing to sign an extension or not right now. Like these are things that should be known and should have been known probably before they had the head coach, to be honest with you. Like it shouldn't be a rush now that the lottery is here. These are things when you're even mentioning getting a new head coach. These are the discussions that should be have right now. It should be had at that point where it's like, all right, well, we need a new coach. Am I going to be here? Like, are we married together? Me and this coach, like what's going on? Is it a one? The fact that nobody knows what's going on right now, the fact that it seems like they're not even having the discussions, it's a failure. It really is. Like it's a failure in the process, whether they get to the ultimate point or not, where he's extended for a couple of years, or they decide that he's not. Whatever the case may be, the process, in my opinion, is a failure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it like there's a reason why I broke the news that Dante DiVincenzo was unhappy about not starting. There's a reason why we're hearing right now that Monty McNair doesn't have a deal. Like there are reasons why that's happening. I don't mean that there are reasons why like these things happen. I mean there are reasons why we're getting that information. It's to push someone to actually, do something. So it's an interesting, again, it's part of the job of being a journalist is, because it is information that Monty McNair doesn't have a contract. But at the same time, like by stating that Monty McNair doesn't have a contract moving forward, there's an intent behind that. There's an intent behind someone telling you that that's what's happening. Right. Got me? So, yeah, and also, hey, someone mentioned it here that they're crying tears about Pearl Jam. So people know, if just in case you're planning on going to the Pearl Jam concert, I did just get an email, and Pearl Jam has been canceled for tonight due to an illness in the band.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah. So be aware of that. I didn't know they were going to be here tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were tickets available.
Yeah. Prayers up to those guys. All right. More about the Kings in this whole situation. And this is all under the premise of them keeping the pick and making the pick. Maybe it doesn't matter with this, what I'm about to bring up to you right now, but what they want to do moving forward is does the Kings getting that fourth pick, does that change how they build this roster this summer? Because say you get a Jaden Ivey at shooting, I'm just going to use him as an example. Well, now you probably have a decision to make between DiVincenzo, Davion, probably, maybe, and Terrence Davis, right? Like, are you going to re-sign DiVincenzo? If you don't re-sign him, now are you going to use that money to go look for, a small forward, a power forward? How are you going about this? Now you got trade chips. Does this change, I don't want to say everything, but a whole hell of a lot with what they may do in free agency now and with some of the free agents they have and who they may go after?
Sure it does. Yeah, I mean, if somehow you drafted Jaden Ivey at number 4, I think you still retain Dante DiVincenzo because Jaden Ivey's going to need a year before he's really a frontline. He's ready to take over a starting role. And DiVincenzo has been a guy who's been able to play both the starter and the reserve position. But then, that certainly makes Terrence Davis and Justin Holiday very expendable. Right. I think I would still run with like a basic 3-guard set of Dante, Davion, and De'Aaron as you sort of the triple Ds, I guess, as your backcourt. There you go. Yeah. But then with Jaden Ivey playing, 20 minutes a game, 18 minutes a game, and sliding over and taking some some of the small forward position. Anyway, yeah, like
What
I
we
could
doing,
see.
D-Lo, Casey? We just say things, man, out here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, I mean, they all have their names start with a D. Am I incorrect there? Yeah. um, yeah. But I mean, I think it really does. It makes the other guys extremely expendable, and maybe you can't go get gold for those guys, but you're still talking about $10 million in expiring contracts, and $10 million in expiring contracts can get you a $12 million player, $12.5 million player. Yeah. So again, or you again, someone brings up the 3 guard set, right? Well, the 3 guard set, just so people like, I'm still coming back to the 3 guard set. Like the 3 guard set with Sabonis looks a whole lot different than the 3 guard set with guys like Rashawn Holmes or Damian Jones, or it just does. It looks totally different. You now have like a hub that you can play everything through.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, like, you still need depth all over, but you need talent. And, that's where I'll circle Dante DiVincenzo. He is very, very talented and has potential to be a really good fit alongside these guys. So, you have to keep talent if you're the Kings. You don't have enough of it.
Have you heard anything else about that? Is it just kind of been quiet on all fronts, or did they did anybody reach out to anybody and try to make sure we're on the same page, or is that just really quiet right now because they're trying to find a coach? They got the lottery. We probably won't hear anything about that until the summer. Huh?
Yeah, we won't hear anything about that until, I mean, I think the Kings have until June 29th to make a qualifying offer to Dante DiVincenzo, which is like 6.2 or 6.4 million. So they have until then to do that. They have until right around that time to pick up like team options for players for the following season, and all that. So like, there's going to be a lot of things that happen right at the end of June, building up to free agency. Typically, what they do is they get through the draft, and then once you have the draft done, you really know what you need to do. You have like a clear path of where your deficiencies are, because there's going to be trades, there's going to be all kinds of things that happen on draft night. So yeah, it's all like, it lines up in a specific way. Everything comes in order, like it's a chronological order of the season, how it plays out. So the lottery is really the first kickoff, and now we're going to see a bunch of draft picks come through. Those draft picks are going to be different than the draft picks that have been coming through so far. We're going to see bigger name draft workouts. I wish they would get back to a point where we got to see some of these guys go against each other. That to me, if you could get Sharp and Ivy going against each other, like, why not? Like, that.
I'd pay for it. I'd pay for it. They want to put it on. They want to put it on Twitch or YouTube, or if they want to create an OnlyFans, I'd pay. I'd subscribe.
Well, remember, that's what happened. Like,
that one.
Tyreek, I think it was Tyreek Evans, Brandon Jennings, Steph Curry, and Johnny Flynn. They all went toe to toe. Like, they all wanted that number 4 pick.
Yeah.
And Tyreek was a grown man and destroyed everybody. And they were like, yeah, we're going with the 6'6" guy who runs over everyone and no one can stay in front of.
Jeff already rules. I ain't lying to you, man. Can't go to OnlyFans and put that workout on there. I'm paying the $5.99. I'll do it. I ain't lying to you.
That's funny.
No, man, it really is exciting. I agree with you, James. I don't think a move is made by Monty McNair as far as like if they're going to trade it or whatever the case may be, until they're on the clock. Why would you? You got to see what happens with those first 3 picks. So that's going to make this draft so exciting. I really can't wait. This is, I guess the Tyrese Halliburton draft was kind of exciting, but we didn't expect it to be, because they were like 11th or 12th at that point. Like, we didn't expect it to be super exciting. Obviously, the Fox draft was really, really exciting. I think it's going to have that level of excitement on this draft, man, because there's going to be so many ways that this team can go, and so many different options for them. Man, I can't wait, man. I really can't.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah. So, been teasing it for a long time. All right, we're gonna finally get to it. Eastern Conference Finals, Game 1 went down in Miami. Miami beat Boston. That was a crazy, crazy third quarter. We're gonna get into all that. We got Western Conference Finals, Game 1 in San Francisco tonight. We'll get into that as well. And then we'll still talk about this number 4 pick, man. As you can see, I'm still on cloud 9. You guys are still on cloud 9. We got a bunch of thoughts that we want to rehash about that, and we'll get into all of that here. It's D'Lo and KC. Damien's out. James Ham is riding with me today, and we're gonna get you up till 4 o'clock, man, here on ESPN 1320. James, you need to get up, man. You can do that if you need to.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I can answer some of these questions that are rolling through.
Yeah, please do.
Someone asked about Gordon Hayward, and Gordon Hayward is owed a ton of money and can't stay healthy at all. I wouldn't touch Gordon Hayward with a 10-foot pole. Question.
Hold on 1 second. What'd you say, Jesse? Jesse said, what if they give you their first back for Hayward? You get Hayward, you give up Barnes maybe, but you get their first round. Barnes and Holmes for Hayward and their first rounder.
Both of them?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know because I mean it's a lot of money owed, isn't it? Like
I think he's got 30 both years. I think.
Yeah, let me look.
2 years of 30 a year.
Hornets salary.
He's owed a lot of money.
Yeah, he's got 30.075 and 31.5. Yeah, that's really tough. And again, I don't think he's better, really that much better, or is he better at all than Harrison Barnes? And so again, that's a tough one, just age-wise and everything else. I mean, I know Gordon Hayward has been a good player in the league, but he just misses so much time. And yeah, I have a tough time with that one, unless they're giving me a bunch of stuff. Yeah, he's 32, he's still a good shooter. He can still handle the ball. He can still do a lot of things, but I have a tough time when dudes played 52, 44, and 49 games over the last 3 years.
Someone that people aren't talking about, and maybe it has to do with the contract, and I understand. And I'm not saying for 4. I'm just saying, just in general, is Kevin Love is probably going to be available. And I felt like Kevin Love had a bit of a renaissance last year in his career. Like he was good for Cleveland last year, and he fits the mold of the stretch 4 you talk about and all this other stuff. He probably can't defend anymore.
He can't defend anybody. Yeah, he can't defend anybody.
But I mean, if you get Kevin Love, you think you're like, say you get Kevin Love for. I don't even know. I'm not giving up a lot, but like
he makes a ton of money. Yeah,
I think he's got $60 million left for 2 years as well.
Nope. Yeah, NBA rigged. You asked, would you give up Rashawn Holmes plus a number 4 pick for Kelly Oubre? I would give up Rashawn Holmes for Kelly Oubre, and maybe the Kings have to throw in a second round pick. But you're crazy if you think Kelly Oubre is worth anything more than that. Kelly Oubre. So Kelly Oubre is a good player, and he brings a lot of energy, but he's erratic. He's all over the board, both like on the court and off the court. And I've always liked Kelly Oubre, and I have always thought that he would be a good reach for the Kings because he's kind of like a Moneyball pickup. Like Kelly Oubre should be making more than $12 million a year, and he's only got 1 year left on his deal. So. But when you're as talented as him and at the age that he was, and he had to sign a 2-year, like $25 million contract, that should tell you a lot about where he's at as a player. Yeah. But I'll throw this to you. He was a AAU teammate of De'Aaron Fox's, and they've known each other for many, many, many years. And so I like him. I think he would be fun. But again, I would like to see him next to Harrison Barnes, again, you're not giving up a top 4 pick for Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, I agree. Marcus, you're right. Got a bag for lights. Come on, man. We got 468 people in here. We need to get them likes up. Get them up, 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 up. At one point, I think we had 500 in here, and I think Mrs. P said 16 likes. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know where the likes are. I can't see them, but
Come on.
come on, people.
Let's get. I know they're not where they're supposed to be. And people tell me I need to beg for likes, so let's get them up. Let's hype this up right now. Let's go.
Yeah, we had like the late night show we did last night did really well.
It's a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in Sacramento. The sun is shining. It's actually really hot outside. I wouldn't know because I'm inside, but the Kings have number 4 pick. They moved up in the draft. Unexpected. All right, so the sun is just shining a little brighter here in Sacramento. It's D'Lo and KC. I'm KC. Damien's out for today, but I got James Ham riding with me today, man. All 4 hours. It's been a pleasure having James on a day like this. Ah, man. We'll take a second from the Kings because we got to talk about the actual NBA games that were played yesterday, or the game that was played yesterday. Eastern Conference Finals, Miami. Man, it was looking bleak for Miami for a second, and I'm not talking Memphis, but boy, oh boy, did they turn up in that third quarter against the Boston Celtics. They end up winning game 1 of that series to take a 1-0 lead. They end up winning it. Where is the score? There it is, 118-107. But they were down by 13 at one point at the half. I think they went into the half down 10, might have been 9. But they started the third quarter on, I think, a 22-2 run. Just still on the ball left and right, fast breaks left and right. That was phenomenal to see. Jimmy Butler. James, I don't know if you heard or if you knew, after game 7 against the Milwaukee Bucks, I came in on these airwaves. You know, we got the title belts all over the place. And I had Giannis with the belt. The belt changed hands. Jason Tatum now has the belt, the KCC championship. And I made the comment. I said, Jason Tatum is right back in the match. He's in a match. He won the title at say whatever, King of the Ring. Monday night, he's got a title match defending that title against Jimmy Butler. I said that. And they're like, I don't know if Jimmy can get the belt. Well, I'm going to tell you this. I know Jimmy thinks it's a title match because he's coming for the belt. What he did last night, especially in that second half, turning up on the defensive and offensive end, that's what leaders do, man. That's what leaders do. That's what championship players do. And it was impressive to see him and other guys in Miami. Gabe Vincent played well. Strauss was hitting some big-time shots. Bam Adebayo was doing his thing on the defensive end. It was impressive to see those guys flip the switch in that third quarter and turn this game up.
Yeah, it was like the Sacramento Kings third quarter. It was 39 to 14.
Oof.
That's some sort of run. And again, you bring up, like when it comes to like baseball playoffs are usually won by like obscure players. Like they're always the one that step up. It's not your stars. It's always some rando who does something crazy. Yeah. It is like Francisco Cabrera. Like there are guys that like step up in like moments that you're like, hey, look what just happened. But when it comes to the NBA, it's such a star-driven league, and so having guys like Gabe Vincent step up, or in that last series, having Williams drop all those threes for Boston, like those are game changer things. But really, it's on the backs of the great play of others and of your star players. And I really do think that that series, it kind of hinges on if Marcus Smart can play. Where is he at? Because if you take him off the court, then Jimmy Butler's going to go for 41 every night. If you put him on the court, maybe Jimmy Butler still goes for 25, but it's not an efficient 25, and he's got to fight for every single one of those. And he can't actually play that. He's not going to be able to play defense as well, like sustain the defensive pressure and all that stuff. Yeah. So, I think it's going to be a fun series. And I also think that, we're watching a young Celtics team sort of getting galvanized. This is their moment where they've become a squad that's a true contender. And before the last series, I don't think we knew that that's what would happen with this team. And we're seeing it. We're seeing a team grow up in front of our eyes, and that's fun. It's fun to watch. And kudos to Emi Udoka and Will Hardy and those guys who have those guys buying in fully. But at the same time, like this is like they're maturing at the right time. This is kind of their time to shine. And I hope that this is a full-fledged series because it's got all the makings of like a knockdown, drag out, like really, really competitive, fun series.
Yeah, I think this is 6 or 7. I really do, man. And these two teams are going to go at it. Jesse, do you know what the status is for Marcus Smart as of right now? Is he still just kind of questionable? Are they expecting him? Hopeful? What's the case with Marcus? So he says Marcus Smart is probable. Horford is doubtful. So. Yeah. I mean, getting Marcus Smart back is huge. You know what I mean? That's another body to throw at Jimmy. Jimmy, 41 last night. I think coming into this game one, he was averaging like 33, 35 for the playoffs or whatever. This guy, Stephen Brown asked the question, and it's a heck of a question. I'm trying to find it here in the chat. But is Jimmy Butler hitting his prime at 32? That's kind of what it feels like. Feels like in the bubble till now, he hasn't been any better in his career. It feels like, though. I know he had some great moments in Chicago and obviously Minnesota and all this other Philly. But, man, the way he was enforcing his will on the game on both sides of the ball last night, Jimmy's a problem. Jimmy is a big-time problem.
He is. I mean, he makes you change the whole way that you're attacking. But I think the biggest thing, if you look at their team, it's Gabe Vince. Look at how many 3-point shooters. I mean, really, you have to look at that as not like the way that the Kings have to build their team, but really it is. It's like if you're going to have your star be a guy who doesn't shoot 3-pointers at a high clip and who does most of his damage attacking the rim and getting in the key or mid-range, then you need as many shooters as possible. And that team's got Strauss, they've got Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Tyler Hero. They have all of these pieces that space the floor and create that space. And then again, they have a really nice passing big man. So, and Bam. So if you look at the way that they have built their team, I'm not saying that, Fox is Jimmy Butler, but there are moments where they're unstoppable in the same type of way. And one of them does it with speed. One of them does it with force. Mm-hmm. And so it shows you how you could build this thing. You got to get defenders. I would take one of those, whichever Martin twin wants to come over to the Sacramento Kings. Yeah. I would take both Martin twins and then just like, hey, you guys can split the MLE or something and just like you guys come and hang out. They both have increased their ability to shoot the 3 ball. They can play the 2-3-4. They can pass, they can rebound. They're gritty. They play defense. Like give me some of those types of players. That's what the Kings, they need to moneyball this thing. They need to make one big gigantic acquisition if they can. Mm-hmm. And then they still need more. They need more, and just keep adding to this thing everywhere that they can. But gritty players, 3-point shooters, guys who play defense, guys who, try hard. That's what your goal should be.
Aldrin J in the chat brings up a good point that I wanted to ask you as well. He says, should the Kings still be looking to trade for Duncan Robinson? Another DNP for him again last night. I think he's had more DNP. I think he played in the first series, but ever since the opening series, he's had like one game that he's gotten into. I know he makes $20 million a year. I know we had talked about it before about that possibly being a target for what the Kings might try to add to their roster. For me personally, the DNPs don't scare me off. I'd bring Duncan Robinson to Sacramento on a heartbeat for the right deal. I think at the time we were talking about like Rashawn Holmes and maybe Justin Holiday or something like that for Duncan Robinson. And I'd still do it. I'd still look into see if that's something that could be worked out. What do you think, Hugh?
Yeah, I mean, it would be on my list of things. I would also look around a lot more. I like the idea of Duncan Robinson. I don't particularly love the contract of Duncan Robinson. Mm-hmm. Because it's not only is it $20 million a year, but it's long term. Yeah. And that's something that kind of scares me away. But the Kings need like that type of 3-point shooter, and they need a bunch of them. They need, maybe 3 of them at this point, maybe 4. But you also have to have a place where he can play, and can he play the 4, the 3? And I don't think he can, all that effectively. He's more of a 2. So you already have a bunch of guys at that position. That's it. That's a scary contract because, you're watching the declining scale contract of, well, I guess he makes 16.9 next year, 18, 19, and then he has a player option for almost $20 million in the 25-26 season. That's a lot to take on. And again, I think you can kind of put him in sort of like the Luke Kennard category, right? And I would have made the argument that maybe a Luke Kennard swap for who he's owed like almost like 13-7, 14-7, 14-7, and that last one is a team option. He might, that a swap there with Rashawn Holmes would probably make a lot of sense. Like that would make them a lot better. That would give them the big man that they need, and it would save them a little bit of money. So like I think that getting a player that maybe has a little less length on the contract kind of gives you the same type of play. But I would even make the claim that Luke Kennard is more versatile as a player than Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, maybe something could be worked out there. Like, but the Kings need to find guys. I just don't think they need to find $20 million players.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Right. Especially guys that are, no disrespect to Duncan, because I think he's a good ball player. I think he has a good IQ, but it's kind of a one-trick pony, right? Like if he's not able to get open and knock down, open and contested 3-point shots, there's not a whole lot that he could do outside of that for you. And I think that's part of the reason why the Heat aren't playing him. Like they're not in a situation where he can be effective with what he does. Like he's got to guard somebody in these series. And
yeah,
I think he's a good team defender. He's a smart, high IQ player. He's a good team defender, but individually, one-on-one, he struggles in situations like this. So, yeah, I'd still look into it, and I like your idea, Kennard. I like Luke Kennard. That would be a good look as well. As far as this series goes, who do you have winning this series, James? I went with the Celtics in 6. I didn't get off of that. I'm still on it. But it was impressive what Miami was able to do yesterday.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's going 7, and it's probably a coin flip. And I'm gonna guess they got to get healthy. I mean, you can't go down, 0-2 in the series because you got 2 guys who can't play. Yeah, I would probably go Heat in 6, Heat in 7, something like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great series. And like I said, seeing these guys at this level, I know our girl Jill Adge, she was talking about being excited for the lottery, and then watching the Eastern Conference Finals and seeing that it's exciting that they got the 4th pick, the Kings did, but they're so far away from what these 2 teams are putting out there. It's like, it's kind of sobering, right? But you can't get there without making that first step, and they got that number 4 pick, so that could be their first step. A little bit of a side note that I wanted to ask you, because he was at it again this morning. ESPN, man, y'all got to do better. Like it can't be this hard to get people to watch your programming. Pat Bev was once again on ESPN. Obviously, on Monday morning after the Suns lost Game 7, he just got real petty and real nasty, taking shots at Chris Paul. Fair or foul? Like I had a issue with that. It's relative, right? Like I'm not gonna fall out and die because he was on First Take talking about an NBA player. But I thought it was in poor taste. I thought it was unnecessary for Pat Bev to do something like that, especially when you come on, man. This guy just knocked you out of the playoffs a year ago, to the point where he was dogging you so bad you had to push him in the back. You know what I mean? When he wasn't looking. So the messenger, it was unnecessary. It was unnecessary shots. Did you think that you know, guys like myself were looking too deep into it, and it's just all entertainment? And Pat Bev can say those things if he wants to with no issue.
Like, look, we live in a hot take world, right? Like everyone's got a hot take and they all want to put it out there. And I've never been a hot take guy. I'm more of a like try to be realistic, try to walk you through how we get to the next step. Is there some truth that Chris Paul isn't as good a defender as he once was? Sure. Is Pat Bev like the guy who should be out there doing it and yelling and screaming? I don't know. I mean, like, look, like sometimes you gotta. I even like Matt Barnes had an opinion on it and went at Pat Bev and told him to stop being a clown and stuff. I kind of I get it. But at the same time, I've been around this league like a lot of Chris Paul's career, and there are a lot of people don't like Chris Paul. Like he's like, is he well respected as a leader? I was told, Michael Malone told me one time that Chris Paul is the greatest leader he'd ever been around in the league, and he spent Malone had been on the Cavs bench with LeBron James for a long time. Like the greatest leader he had been around by far was Chris Paul. And so when he's on your team, you love him, but he's one of those guys that when he's not on your team, you really do have a hard time even liking him. And it's the antics, it's the getting away with stuff. And I get some of that. It's not fun to watch and stuff, but like Chris Paul still, he is a legend. He is one of the top, probably 5 or 6 point guards in the history of the game. The fact that he hasn't won a championship, sometimes it's bad luck. Charles Barkley never won a championship, bad luck all the time. Karl Malone never won. John Stockton never won championships because they're in the Jordan era. But I definitely think that, we're in this sort of clip where people they're trying to make a name for themselves by just going out and spouting as much as they can, just crazy nonsense. And that's just not me. It's not my style. And it's not something I like to listen to. I don't watch a lot of those shows because it gets under my skin. I don't get why you're screaming and yelling about people all the time. Just like be straight up, tell a good story that's truthful and honest, and be straightforward as best you can. And that's, but that's my way of handling business. It's not the way that a lot of other people, like the hot take machine was rolling yesterday in Sacramento.
Oh,
I'm not going to dive in on the hot take machine.
Yeah, I feel you. When it comes to Pat Bev and all that, like I said, he can do whatever he wants. He's in the league. He has an opportunity to speak on these things. Just thought it was in poor taste. You know what I mean? Like it came off like a hater. And if he's okay with being a hater, then that's his prerogative. But he came off like a hater. There's no need for that, Pat Bev, because I like Pat Bev. I was disappointed to see that from him, and him to keep on going about it for the next couple of days. So, it is what it is. Western Conference Finals starting tonight. One day, James, Kings will be there. One day you'll join in D'Lo and KC, in the 3:00 hour. And I would say that, you'd be in the bunker, down in the media room. But I think when that day comes, we're all going to be out in Doco together. We're going to be broadcasting live somewhere in Doco, and James is going to come to our set and we're going to talk. And it's game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. And we're going to be like, remember when the Kings got the number 4 pick and they used that pick on Shaedon Sharpe? That's the point that we can talk about where everything turned around. That's where everything turned around.
The
and
moment.
That's where we're at. Right. But in the here,
I would love it. Yeah.
Yeah. In the here and now, that Western Conference Finals is in San Francisco. Mavericks, Warriors. I think this is going to be a great series, man. I really do. I'm anxious to see what the Warriors do, specifically with Luka. Who's going to guard him? I have a feeling it's going to be Wiggins for a lot of the game, but I think they're going to throw Draymond on him late. And I don't know, man. I don't know if Draymond can handle Luka. Draymond a great defender. He's a phenomenal defender. I don't know if he can handle Luka. I think that might be a problem. Might
Yeah,
be
I
a
think
problem.
it's a battle of the two like the two dudes who yell at the officials the most. Yeah, that should be interesting to watch, right? Like
Luka's
who,
calmed down a little bit. I'm gonna give Luka a little credit. I feel like he's falling back a little bit. I used to hate that
oh
about
no.
watching
That
Luka.
dude doesn't stop talking the entire game.
The
Like
last
the
second
entire
half of the
game.
season, he said he was gonna fall back a little bit. I feel like he has a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe it's a figment of my imagination.
I hope so. You know, it does take away from who he is as a player because he really is a great player, but
Mm.
it's hard to watch. Like I don't particularly enjoy watching him. Even when when he gets on a run, it's pretty crazy to watch. Just but his style of play isn't like my favorite style of play either.
Mhm.
You know, he's one of those guys that he does his thing and you have to respect it. It's kind of like Chris Paul. They do their thing, you got to respect it, but you don't have to like every aspect of it. I don't like Chris Paul grabbing people and pulling them down or drawing the stupid fouls all the time that he does. There's a lot of things that like these types of players have in common. And like when it comes to like Luca, like every time I've ever watched him play against the Kings, he should have been thrown out of the game like 4 or 5 times. And I'd say the same thing about Draymond. Like the stuff that he gets away with, the antics where DeMarcus Cousins would clap loudly and get his second tech and get sent
Mhm.
home. And you got like Draymond Green doing the bull dance, running up and down the court, like arguing a call every single time. Just like, hey, I can't believe this happened to me. Showing up the official every time, which is a clear cut technical, and nothing. And it's a second. It would be a second every time, and you're just like, man, how do they get away with it? So I hope that doesn't devolve into like that type of series.
Mhm.
But I also like when the Warriors are on, it's beautiful basketball and they're fun to watch. And I don't think that they're going to have trouble with Brunson running up the middle like some of these other teams have had because they're such a
Mhm.
good defensive team. They
Yeah.
know how to have each other's back. They're all on a string. I think that there are going to be enough games where you know Steph and Clay are just you can't stop them. So I would be surprised if that series goes more than 6.
Mhm.
I also wouldn't be totally shocked to see like a 4-1 Warriors.
Yeah, I'd absolutely be surprised if this one went. I may be surprised is a little bit of a stretch. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm expecting the Warriors to handle this one in 5. I think they beat Dallas in 5. I didn't
Yeah,
think Dallas was going to beat Phoenix. I didn't think they had enough firepower. It's going to be the same formula that Jason Kidd has had for both the first 2 series in these playoffs. They're going to go small ball and they're going to go one on one. They can either get to the bucket or if you help, they're going to kick out for 3. And that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try and beat them with the 3 ball. And if they can do that, they're obviously going to have an opportunity. But I don't know. Now, how do you go 3 ball for 3 ball with the 3 ball Kings? Right.
how do you go small ball against the small ball Kings?
Right.
Again, like it's only a matter of time before you run into the problem. And wasn't the only time that the Warriors really got into a little bit of trouble was when Memphis went big
Mhm.
with Adams,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, that's a problem. And I don't think Dallas. Well, I know Dallas doesn't have anyone to go big like that, and so you are trying to match up your style versus their style. And look, people might think like Mike Brown is a really good defensive coach. That's the number one rated defense in the NBA, and they're going to be tough, even if they have guys like Steph that isn't known as a great defender, and Clay who is still coming back from like horrific knee and Achilles issues.
Mhm. Mhm.
They still have guys hiding on the bench that they can bring in maybe for a couple of minutes here and there. Maybe we do see an Iguodala go out there for 5 minutes a half and try to slow down Luka for stretches. Maybe they even have young guys like Kaminga. Like they're gonna have some moments here where these guys are actually, um, you know, they're gonna be as unstoppable and more unstoppable than what the Dallas Mavericks are.
Well, Jason Kidd did a really good job this year. I wasn't crazy about him as a coach, but the way he's transformed this Mavericks team and also found what works for them, right? Like this worked for them. There's no need to try to make them this team that runs this super offense or pick and roll, all this other stuff. He's like, hey, I got a bunch of guys that can go one-on-one. I got guys who are good corner 3-point shooters that, if we use that to our advantage, we can get them some wide open looks. He's found that formula, and he hasn't been scared off of it. Like, he wasn't scared off of it in the Phoenix series. He was like, this is what we need to do to win. And we're either going to do it and win, or we're not, and we're going to lose. I'm not going to, make these crazy adjustments or anything like that. So got to tip my hat to Jason Kidd. Steve Kerr should be back tonight, right?
He's back. Yeah, I think Jason Kidd's done a great job. Like, I wasn't a fan of the hire either. His time in Milwaukee was all kinds of sordid and crazy, not great. And even, as a player, he is an all-time great, but you didn't think of him as like a potential coach of the future, like Steve Kerr, of course, but even like Steve Nash, you're like, okay, I get it. That was kind of his style of play, and like he was vocal and stuff like that. But like Kidd he's done a great job here. I mean, the fact that team's in the Western Conference Finals, and it also speaks to just how incredibly good Luka is. I mean, he really is incredible, and you just can't get any way around it. I mean, the dude just backpacks his team again and again and again. Yeah, it's good stuff.
For sure. James, we're going to step out for a second. When I come back, we're going to dive more into the topic of the day. Sacramento Kings moving up in the draft, number 4 pick in the draft. We're going to, give our thoughts. I got thoughts about what they should do with the draft, who they should take at that pick if they're going to make the pick. We'll get into all that on the other side. It's D-Lo and KC. It's ESPN 1320. We'll be right back. Cool. I'm about to take me a quick little break. The damn Giants pissed me off, so I'll be right back.
Yeah, well, the A's are down 8-2.
Oh, my. All right. I'll be right back.
Yep. Oh. Duncan Robinson is better than Luke Kennard. I know that Duncan Robinson did not lead the league in three-point shooting like Luke Kennard did. And I also know that his defensive rating is much better than his offensive rating. Well, I don't know. Yeah, Brian, that's a bummer. Pearl Jam, just so people get that again, Pearl Jam has canceled at the last minute due to illness in the band, which they had illness in the band with the drummer a couple of nights ago in the Bay Area. But, yeah, no, don't send Neil Young out for 3 more hours. We don't need to hear Heart of Gold sung like 17 different ways. That would not be a good thing. What is the best comparable for James Weissman this year? Like Mark Williams is more of a true, a true big, like rim running big. I like him a lot. There's also, sorry if I lock up. I'm trying to get to my sheets here. There's a big man that blocks a ton of shots that's considered like right at the end of the top 10. Jalen Duren, is that who it is? Yeah, Jalen Duren, 6'11", 250, 18 years old. He's super young, but he also does a lot of crazy stuff. He's a very good shot blocker, good rebounder. Yeah, I would say that would probably be a good comp. Yes, 20 minutes of Neil Young feels like 3 hours. I totally agree. I have not been to the Aviators ballpark. Is that in Las Vegas? Probably. This one, what do I truly want to do with the pick? That's not the one sorry. I don't really want to draft a player. The only way I draft a player, in my opinion, is if a couple of the teams, like if a couple of guys went ahead of where they should go, and that you had a choice between Chet or Jabari at number 4. And I don't think that's going to happen. It's possible. I have never seen Avery Johnson talking about Buddy, but I have seen Avery Johnson talk and it reminds me of a Canadian from South Park. The little general. I like Avery Johnson. Would I trade number 4 to Indy for Chris Durant and the number 6? Absolutely not. Chris Durant's like 27-year-old rookie. I like him as a player, but that wouldn't be the move I would do. Here's a question, people out there. Would you trade the number 4 for Tyrese Halliburton? Oh, what would people do? I'm gonna get all people riled up like Kenny would. Would you trade the 4th pick in the 2022 NBA draft for Tyrese Halliburton? That's not petty. I love Tyrese Halliburton. Kenny, what do you say about that? Uh-oh.
What happened?
Would you trade the number 4 pick for Tyrese Halliburton?
No.
No.
And I like Tyrese, but no. I need a go-getter. Hold on one second. D-Lo and KC here. James Ham riding with your boy KC as Damian has the day off. And yeah, we do this from time to time. Let's just go ahead and bring the commercial break conversation on the air. I don't know who started it. I don't know who did it. Oh, you. So, tell us how we got here, James. Tell us how we got here.
Yeah, everyone is they're asking different trades. Like, would you trade this? Would you trade that? And I just asked, would you trade the number 4 pick to the Indiana Pacers for Tyrese Halliburton?
And I said no. I didn't even have to think about it. No disrespect to Tyrese. I like Tyrese. It's my guy. I ain't got no problem with Tyrese Halliburton. But number 4, I'm looking for a go-getter. I'm looking for somebody. I'm looking for a bucket getter, for a franchise-changing player. And I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is that. I think he's a really good ball player. And he is very, very good with other great ball players around him. But I don't know if he'd be coming to that situation here in Sacramento. So therefore, no. I'm drafting a guy that would be great with Tyrese Halliburton. One of the guys. Like Tyrese Halliburton, we talk about Jaden Ivey, Shaedon Sharpe, Keegan Murray. I think Tyrese Halliburton is best if all 3 of those guys are on the team with Tyrese Halliburton, right? Like he needs that type of level around him, talent level around him to get the best out of his game. That doesn't mean like if he doesn't have him, he's going to be bad. Like he's a good ball player, but you want a lot of talent around Tyrese so he can, you can pass the ball to those guys, set those guys up, get them good looks, and kind of get in where he fits in. When you need him to be a primary scorer or a number 2 scorer, yeah, that's where it gets a little dicey.
I think the problem that it's just that Ty needs the ball in his hands all the time. And I think Ty and Sabonis would have been brilliant together, totally. I just don't think Ty, Sabonis, and Fox could ever work, and that's unfortunate, but yeah, it's just it is what it is. The Kings need a player like Buddy Hield, but they don't need Buddy Hield. The Kings need a player like Tyrese Halliburton, but they don't need Tyrese Halliburton. Right. I'd even make the argument that Dante DiVincenzo is actually similar to Tyrese Halliburton, just not as good a distributor, not as good a three-point shooter, but a much better defender and a better role player in that way. So he can do a lot of what Ty does, just in a slightly different, better fit package, if that makes sense.
Well, and here's the other thing. I'm trying to find it. My guy, who was it in the chat? I lost it. I just had it. But he said, I knew KC was only about buckets. Not necessarily, but I need somebody that can go get it. That's what this team lacks. I mean, De'Aaron might be that. Sabonis, ideally, you don't want him averaging 25 a night. Like you want him at around, like you mentioned before, James, like 18 and 12 or something like that. I need somebody that can go get their shot. And when you talk about some of these guys that they talk about at the number 4 spot for the Sacramento Kings, in just a second, I want to go around to some of these mock drafts and see where they have the Kings taken, who they have them taking it for. One of the things, when you talk about fit and all this other stuff, you hear with Jaden Ivey, great ball player, but it's some of the same possible issues that you had when Tyrese Halliburton was here. As far as Jaden right now seems to be a guy that needs the ball in his hands to be effective. You know, he's a guy that he in Purdue, at least, he's initiating the offense. He's the guy that gets that. There's not a lot of catch and shoot stuff. There's not a lot of stuff off the ball. It's him getting the ball and looking to attack downhill. Shaedon Sharpe, from some of the things that I've heard, he's kind of ready to go off the ball. He's a guy that off the ball, he can cut. You can, backdoor cuts, be in the dunk spot, at the short corner on the baseline. He can catch and shoot. He can get out and transition. Fit wise, from what I've seen so far, and I'm gonna dive in a little bit more, seems like Shaedon actually is a better basketball fit for what the Kings want to do on the court as opposed to Jaden Ivey.
I see. So I see Jaden Ivey is De'Aaron Fox light. That's what I like right here from. And look, I'm going to say he's not that. He is more like Ja Morant light. That's how I would put him. Like his athleticism, the way he uses his speed and athleticism is more like Ja than it is like De'Aaron Fox. Like there are moments where he goes up and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's going up for that. And I know Fox is like taking a step back as far as how many times he dunks a ball per season and stuff like that. He conserves his energy more. He doesn't aggressively attack above the rim, which is probably a good thing.
No, I agree. You got to stop that. I need him. I need him going for some bang outs this year. Come on, Fox.
I don't know, because I keep watching. Bang out. Yeah, but Ja just keeps getting hurt doing that. And that's always a problem. I mean, you're gonna if you're a little more ground based, you're reserving your body, and Fox misses time every season as well. But even like this one was kind of a freak injury. Last year he had the COVID that took him out for a while. But look, I think that you're probably right that Sharpe might be just an overall better fit. I think the potential, I really like Ivey's potential. And I watched quite a bit of him in the tournament. Again, not a great defender. And like we have no idea what your guy is going to be defensively either. We have no idea. He hasn't played, and the only time he has played it's against high school kids.
Yeah.
And who knows what we're getting there. But he's certainly a player that is jumped up and captured the imagination of a lot of people. I do think like Shaedon Sharpe is one of those guys, and same thing with Ivey. They're both guys that there could easily be a team that just absolutely goes bonkers for them in the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's probably Sharpe probably has a higher likelihood of that, just because if you look at the teams that are up there, who does he fit with type stuff. But I really do think that we could see some movement in that top 3, and then that's why you stay prepared, but also be ready to change your ideas about what's going to happen and wait for the moment to happen. Have it all mapped out on the board of all the possibilities, and have little lines going like, if this happens, and 5 or 6 contingencies here, trades that you can make, trades that make sense. But again, I'll say this, the key to the number 4 pick to me in this draft is that the top 3 guys are all bad teams looking to draft young players and looking to build slowly through the draft. And so the Kings are the first position in the draft where the pick could be had, and someone could move up to get it. And so that's a selling point. It's a big deal, because there are going to be teams like Detroit that is trying to build through the draft as well. They're not trying to expedite their build out. They want Cade Cunningham to have a year or two growing into who he's going to be. And then they want to, really hit it hard with a couple of young players to put around him. well, that makes a lot more sense for them to be at number 4 drafting for potential than it does the Kings. And so I think there are all kinds of ways that the Kings can make themselves better right here.
Yeah. Mrs. P brings as an interesting question. It's funny. But then I was actually thinking about, does this actually happen? She says, can the Kings bring in current players to play against the draft prospects? Like, for instance, Davion going up against them. And that's a funny thought. Like I said, I don't think they can do that, or they would, but I'd like to see them at the workout and like, all right, you're playing ones with Davion. Let's see how this goes right now. That'd be pretty cool. Once again, sign me up for that Sacramento Kings OnlyFans. I want to see that matchup. Shaden versus Davion versus Ivy. Let's go.
Yeah. I do. I want to see the matchups, and they just don't do that anymore. I mean, like when these groups of 6 come through, what they do there is they usually have 2 guards, 2 forwards, 2 centers, or they'll have 2 guards and 4 forwards, something like that, and guys that are similar shapes and sizes type deal, or guys who are basically traveling in like these little roving herds that go from one city to the next, doing workouts for different teams. But they're broken up into specific, and they do play against each other. They play a bunch of crazy 3-on-3 games, and teams get a really good feel for how guys command the floor and all that stuff. But when it comes to the top end prospects, they don't do that. They don't want to work out against anybody. Their people don't want them to work out against anybody. That's what's nice about being like around number 12, or when the Kings had the 15th and the 20th pick in the draft. They brought in a whole bunch of guys. So I'm pretty sure John Collins and I think it was Justin Jackson and Kyle Kuzma went up against each other, and Kyle Kuzma played better and should have been the pick, but didn't happen. But that's good, because in that range from like 10 to 20 or 10 to 30, you got a bunch of guys who are like, yeah, let's do this. I'm game. Let's go fight it out. And a lot of agents who are like, look, I want my guy to climb. And if he you get 3 good workouts and there starts to be a buzz about you, all of a sudden you can move up 5 spots, 6 spots, 8 spots in the draft. And that could mean the difference between, $2.8 million and $1.3 million. Like, there's a substantial climb you can make financially.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. But I also see the in the spot that you were talking about, like, I get why they would do that for the Ivies, for the Sharps, even Keegan Murray if you want to. Like, there's no need. That's just bravado at that point. Like, you got to think with the business mind. All you got to do is go in there with the 1-on-0 workouts and do well there, and you could solidify the spot that you really already have, or you can move up. So, like I said, Sacramento Kings, if you want to start that OnlyFans and broadcast these battles, I'll pay the $6.99. Please believe that. But other than that, you can keep it. You're listening to ESPN 1320 KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, an Odyssey station, and driven by Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge. It's Kenny Caraway. It's James Ham filling in for Damian Barling today. The Kings have the number 4 pick in the draft. Man, I'm still hyped about this. I'm still hyped. I got to make sure I got to pace myself here, James. We got about a month and a half before the draft. I got to pace myself. I got to calm down. There may be days when I just don't even look at a draft board, when I don't even look at a mock draft, and I say, no, I'm not going to deal with it, because I'm amped up right now, James. Work me through it. You're a guy that you did like 20 mock drafts, and you probably will this time too, throughout the course of the draft season, right? How am I going to get through this here with the Kings at the 4?
Yeah. Well, I mean, now we know what's going to happen at the top. Now we can start making predictions on what a team like Orlando will do at number 1. I mean, that's where you really start to break these things down. How do each of these prospects fit for a team like Orlando? And then once you get done with that one, you move to the next one. And like, again, how do these players fit with OKC? I think OKC is an interesting case where, they've got Giddey, they've got Shea Gilgeous, but outside of that, they've got all kinds of options, right? Mm-hmm. And they can go a bunch of different ways and how they build this thing out. They've got Lou Dort, so chances are they're probably going to be looking at one of those big men pretty heavily. I think Jabari would fit perfectly in OKC. Orlando is, I think, a little bit different. They really like Wendell Carter, and so like, what are they going to do there? And they've got young bigs. They've got Mo Bamba, that's a restricted free agent this summer and probably could be had in the right situation. Maybe he's a guy that the Kings kick the tires on and go,
I would absolutely would kick the tires.
I mean, he's been able to space the floor. He's still a great shot blocker. He hasn't really developed like people thought, but then again, he's played on a bad team that hasn't developed a lot of players. So I really do think that when you're looking at the way you build out a mock draft, is you look at the players that are going to be. I'm going to sneeze.
Sneezing, James Ham. I've been there. You know what I'm saying? Where the sneeze just overtakes. Trust me, every 12 o'clock during the allergy season, I wouldn't sneeze the whole day, right? We get on the air, all of a sudden I'm just sneezing, pressing the mute button, all this other stuff. It's crazy. Been there, done that. Like Drake.
Yeah, totally. So again, I'm going to go through each of these teams, and I'm going to look who I think fits best there. And again, if the Rockets, does a big man make sense for the Rockets? Does Paolo Banchero make sense for the Orlando Magic? Because they're a team that can't score. Does he make sense as a scoring big at the 4? Yes. And so if he has the most scoring potential, maybe it does upset the top end of the draft. Maybe all of a sudden now you're looking at Chet and Paolo going to Chet and Jabari are the next two, and you're looking at OKC and which one of those guys fits better. Again, Jabari. You get to the Rockets, would the Rockets like a running mate with Jalen Green? Does Shaden Sharp or does Jaden Ivey make sense there? Yeah, so you can start to rationalize how some of these players could go to different places. I really do think, again, someone brings up the Rockets have Christian Wood. Well, are the Rockets interested in trading Christian Wood for a different type of player? And maybe you can go get Christian Wood. So you can start looking at how these things could work out for your team. And again, if one of those guys goes Jabari Smith, say the Rockets get Jabari at number 3 somehow, man, Rashawn Holmes would make a lot of sense with him.
Yeah.
So if you can, maybe he makes more sense than Christian Wood. Maybe they can play together, but you still have Şengün, and you want to bring young players up along the way. But I'll look at this. I probably won't do that many mock drafts this year because we're already so late in the season. But the Tyrese Halliburton draft, I did 23 mock drafts, and
oh my,
like
how 23 mock drafts?
Because it started so early. Because the season ended because of the lockout, the shutdown, and then so you just kept writing new versions of this stuff and watching more and more and more film, talking to more people, seeing where they thought this guy would go or that guy would go. So I really do think that this one is going to be a little closer. We're going to rip through this pretty quick, and I'll probably do 1 or 2 mock drafts here as we get closer and closer to the day. But the Kings are in a very good position, and it's a valuable position. That's what I'll keep saying. Yeah. It's a pivot in the draft where, we can probably say at this point it's a 4 to 5 man top end draft. It's really a top 3, but the 4 and the 5th guy could switch places. They could also climb and push one of the other top 3 down into the conversation. So it's a good spot to be in.
Yeah, and I've said it a couple of different times here today on the show. Said it on Twitter at IMKDiddy. Go follow your man if you need to. I like Jaden Ivey. I like him a lot. He is. Somebody said it earlier, and they're right. He's box office. When you look at the highlights and you see the way he jumps off the screen,
super fun.
Man, I would. If the Kings took Jaden Ivey, I'd be hyped. About what he could possibly do here in Sacramento. Keegan Murray, I like some of the stuff that he brings to the table. I have my concerns, but the things that are pros in favor of Keegan Murray, I'm all with it. Stretch 4. The guy put up, big time numbers in college, did what he did. Seems like he has a high IQ, a high understanding of the game. I'd be happy with Keegan Murray as well. I'd scratch my head about, taking him at 4, but I look at some of the positives that he can do and be like, hey, if he can do those things here in Sacramento, that'll help this team out a lot. But if I'm making the pick at 4, James, for me personally, I'm rolling the dice. I'm swinging for the fence. I'm going after the big fish. I'm taking the enigma. He's an enigma for some people, but I'm taking Shaedon Sharpe. I look at what he could be in this league. I look at him being 6'6", 6'4", whatever. The guy's got a 7-foot wingspan. Could be 7'2". He's like 19 years old. By the time he's 22, he could have a 7'4" wingspan. He could be 6'9" for all we know, right? I'm taking the guy that essentially is what everybody in the NBA is looking for. A guy that can play multiple positions, that can handle the ball well enough, that can score from all 3 levels, a dynamic scorer. He has the measurables. I'm going with Shaedon Sharpe. And I know it's risky. There is no guarantees at all to taking Shaedon Sharpe. There are a lot of risky elements to it. The fact that you can't even get accurate game film on him. It's high level. Like you're getting these Adidas Nation games and EYBL, and they're playing in they're playing in gyms the size of McClatchy High School in some of these footage. But I don't know. I look at the skill level and I say, man, this is something Sacramento has never had. They haven't had a guy with that type of skill level that can score on 3 levels the way it seems Shaedon can do. And like I said, I'm going after the big fish. I'm going big fish hunting, man. You can keep all the little the beta fish. Not saying that they're beta, but you know what I mean, the small fish. I'm going for the big fish. I'm going for Shaedon. Let's go. Bring him
I
here.
get it. I get it. I get it. I'm still on the fence. I'm still hoping that somebody else takes that swing with him a little higher and pushes one of the bigs down. And I think that would be the way that the Kings stay there. But I'm also going to say, like, look, if that's their choices, if the big, the 1, 2, and 3 are some sort of, it's Chet, Jabari, and Paolo, I believe the Kings will trade the pick. Like, I know you want him, but and I'm okay with him, but I'm just going to tell you that at the end of the day, like if it goes that way, if the draft goes that way, I see the Kings trading. And even if it doesn't, I could still see the Kings trading unless some reason Jabari or Chet fall. Now,
I understand that. I'm not against that. The number one goal for me, for the most part, is we got to end this streak. All right. And if these guys feel that they can get closer to ending the streak by trading that pick for somebody that's established or anything like that, all right, let's do that. However, James, I mentioned it earlier. When you talk about trading the Kings' first round pick, once again, to quote the great Fat Joe, yesterday's price is not today's price. The price has gone up. So I'm not sure if I want John Collins for the number 4 pick. I'm not sure. I may the price has changed now. If when it was 7 or 8 or possibly 10, sure, we could talk John Collins. I don't know if I'm giving up 4 for John Collins. The price has gone up, and what I'm looking for, if I'm trading that number 4 pick, has also gone up.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. This thing went from, like a nice solid rotational player, like the level of Harrison Barnes, like a good rotational player pick, veteran player, to the potential for an all-star level or all-star player at number 4. That's where this pick went. So, no, I'm with you 100%. Like, the price has gone up for what you're asking for that pick, but there's still a sign on it. There's still There's still a price.
Absolutely.
You can still get that pick, and so like, look, I think at the end of the day, that's the beauty of moving up in the draft. You literally won the lottery. You went from having less value to greater value, and I think the Kings, they're going to keep every option open. And look, we thought that they were going to trade the pick last year. Well, without any question, we thought they were going to trade the number 9 pick.
Yeah.
They rope-a-doped that thing, and then drafted Davion and shocked everybody. It wasn't just that they didn't trade the pick; it's that they drafted someone that no one expected. So I expect them to do their due diligence, but again, for us to really not be able to have true expectations until it's time. I mean, I heard a million times from inside last year, good chance we're trading this pick, and then nothing worked out. And so I would have liked to have seen some of the options that were on the table. Was there something that like made a ton of sense, or was there something that was close? Maybe, but I can also tell you this: they were close to getting John Collins at the deadline. Like they made a run at John Collins, and from what I've heard, they went at him and almost came away with him. Now, does that mean that they couldn't have pulled off the Sabonis deal and that? I don't know. Yeah. But again, that's always, we'll deal with it in the offseason. At that time, you got to remember that Atlanta started rolling right before the trade deadline. They started winning all over the place. And so it's almost like they pulled back. And then Collins got hurt. They were bad down the stretch. They really struggled. They didn't do great in the playoffs, all these things, right? Yeah. But I think it's one of those things where Atlanta thought that they probably could just push it off to the offseason. Like, look, let's give this one last try and see what happens. Yeah. And then we'll probably be able to get, the 7th pick or the 8th pick or whatever it is that they have, and then maybe another pick. But when it goes to number 4, all of a sudden, again, the math changes. So now we're not talking about you getting extra picks. We're talking about you getting, this and this, but not this. And some of the players that might have been in that deal are no longer available for that deal. Right. And, so that's how I think this thing will play out. I think it'll be a little different.
You know what? All great points. But you know what, James? We gotta give some props and some thanks for why we're even in this position. Now, I'm gonna tell you who that thanks needs to go to. I'm gonna tell you who it is on the other side when we come back, because there's some acknowledgement that needs to be given for why we're even in this spot. I'm gonna tell you who it goes to, man. It's D-Lo and Casey, James Ham filling in for Damian Barley right here on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320.
So the Giants lost.
Yeah, man. And they gave up 3 in the 8th to lose. Come on, fellas.
Well, it's much better than where the A's are, although they just got a run. So now they're only down 11-3. Oh, no, they didn't score. Bases juiced, no outs. It's still 11-2. At least they've got 8 hits. At least they're not batting under 200 at this point.
And at least they got the possums out of there too,
Oh, yeah, is that the craziest thing ever? Oh, man, he got his bat sawed in half.
That is nuts.
Yeah. Oh.
Ain't no apology to her. She still shouldn't have that job, but I got to acknowledge her. Ain't nothing to apologize for.
No, we can discuss that. Like, yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
GM of the year.
Where's John Bull with his "Let's go"?
That's his signature.
That is his signature.
Uh-oh.
Oh, they got that run across. Man, you're down 11-3. You can't.
It all started with a bloop RBI single.
What's that?
That's what they're going to say when they talk about this great comeback. It all started with a bloop RBI single.
Yeah. It was a bloop single. It wasn't an RBI, though. The guy held up at third. No, they just scored on a sack fly.
Oh, it all started with the sacrifice fly. Definitely want to know your thoughts on the possum.
My thoughts on the possum?
Yeah.
No.
Did you saw everything, right?
I didn't actually see it. I know it happened. Like, I know that they went to the Twins announcers and said they needed the room so they could go get the possum out. Like, have you ever been around? Have you ever seen a possum live?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're hideous.
Yeah.
They're mean spirited. They're like,
Well, and tell me what you think about it, because I've heard they're actually not as mean as they look. I heard raccoons are meaner.
yeah,
Possums are like more afraid of humans than raccoons.
yeah, that's true.
Raccoons will attack you. Possums will be like, leave me alone.
When I lived in Berkeley, we had this glass house. Like two of the walls were fully glass all the way around, and it was way high in the Berkeley Hills. It was this little 13 by 13 studio me and my wife had, like right before we got married, while she was going to Cal, and we had raccoons that would come up, and then if you didn't like, they would like get up on the glass and like look in the window, like, "Hey, are you gonna give us any food?"
Oh my gosh!
And then when you went to leave, they're all just lined up, like, "Hey, where are you going?" And we had to take like stairs to go down the hill, and they're just waiting for us. Like, no, you ain't going nowhere.
My mom is definitely afraid of raccoons, and I don't like those little things either. To be honest with you, I don't know if I'm afraid of them, but they it seems like they've gotten meaner over the course of the last 15, 20 years. Just like if you pay attention, it feels like these animals are evolving. They're getting smarter. Right? Because if you got a pigeon, right? Remember when you were a kid, you'd stomp at a pigeon and they'd fly off because they're all scared. Try and stomp at a pigeon now and see what happens. They'll look at you like you're crazy. Like, you ain't going to do nothing.
Ciao, please.
Exactly. I think we're about to come back and just say, what we got, Jesse? Oh, we got like a minute. Yeah. I don't like raccoons at all.
Sass with a crazy story. Possums beheaded my friend's chickens.
Oh my gosh. Jesus.
And geese are the worst.
Geese are the worst?
Yeah, we have geese here in the lake. Well, they end up tainting everything because they poop so much. And they put E. coli everywhere.
Oh my gosh. These damn animals. I love them, but come on, man. You guys messing everything up in my home. Although they could say you messed up my home first. They probably could say that.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, James. You have a chance to win 2 VIP tickets to the Golden Sky Fest, a 2-day music, beer, and food fest at Discovery Park this October 15th and 16th. Enter on the contest page at ESPN1320.net. That sounds like a James Ham event. A little Golden Sky Fest. Music, beer, and food. James Ham. Seems like a James Ham function, huh?
I like food, and I'm okay with beer. I'm not a big beer drinker, but yeah. And I like music. It just depends on who's there.
I'd go just for the ambiance. Just be out there. See what's going on. People watch, things of that nature. I don't know what music's going to be played out there. I don't think it's going to be like Soul Bloom, but I'd still go out there anyway. So aside from raccoons and possums and geese, which is what we were talking about during the commercial break, you got to check us out on YouTube and Twitch. We talk about a little bit of everything. I got to get back to the Kings. And James, the Kings didn't get the number 4 pick in the draft yesterday by happenstance. It wasn't a mere coincidence that this happened. No. The Kings had, some good vibes come their way. And I mentioned it earlier, Kanye West album, My Dark Twisted Fantasy. There's a skit on there where Chris Rock is talking to, his girlfriend, and she's this amazing girl, and she does all this other stuff. And he's like, "Where did you learn to do all this?" And she goes, "Yeezy taught me." And he's like, "Well, where did you learn to do this thing?" "Yeezy taught me." "Well, how did you know how to do this?" "Yeezy taught me." And eventually, Chris Rock says, "Well, you know what? I just got to thank Yeezy. I got to thank Yeezy." And you know what? I think all of us as Sacramento Kings fans, we got that number 4 pick. And you know what? I think we all got to take the time, and we just got to thank @Nani. Yeah, we just got to thank @Nani on Twitter. Just thank her, because Angeli, right? That's how you say her name, Angeli Ronadive.
Angeli, yep.
Angeli Ronadive yesterday joined the Kings family in a higher role. I guess she was already there, but she took a higher role as a Stockton Kings assistant GM. And you know what? I'm going to give her credit. I'm going to give her roses, and I'm going to say her good vibes brought the Kings good vibes, got him that number 4 pick. And once again, everybody on Twitter, I want you to tag @D'Lo and KC. I want you to tag @IMK Diddy, and I want you to go to Miss Ronadive's page and just say, "Thank you, @Nani," because it was her vibes that brought us that 4 pick.
You want me to respond? Yeah, I mean, I'm all in on thanking Domantas Sabonis. I mean, I'm there. I'm there with you. Yeah.
Let's talk about the actual. I was having a little fun there too, but let's talk about the actual story about her joining the Stockton Kings as the assistant general manager. This happened later in the day, about an hour before the lottery. And to be honest with you, James, it had an opportunity to like turn everything on its head in King's. Well, it did turn everything on its head in King's Twitter. And we forgot about it once the lottery balls came out in our favor. But man, people were like, what is this all about? Why are we doing this? I was one of them. Not that she shouldn't be part of the franchise. Like I said yesterday, if I own an NBA team and Reese says, I want a job and I want to work and be a part of this franchise, guess what? He's going to work. He's going to get a job and be part of this franchise. Like that's, people call it nepotism, whatever. Like that's just, I have no problem with that. I do have a little bit of concern when she's the assistant general manager. There's other jobs that you could have given her. There's multiple jobs that you could have created to ease her into this thing, as opposed to being the assistant general manager for the Stockton Kings. And that's where I was like, yo, that's a little wild. Your thoughts, James?
Yeah, of all the times that the Sacramento Kings have made up a title, this is one where they should have made up a title. Like, I mean, I'm just going to be real. Like, I don't know her. I haven't had conversations with her about basketball. Have I been in the same room with her? Yes. Have I seen her in the hallways? Yes. Do I have anything against her? Absolutely not. I've been very clear for a long time that if I owned the Sacramento Kings, my son Toby would be with me all the time. He would be my right-hand man. I'd be bouncing stuff off him all the time. We'd be having a good time running the Sacramento Kings. I had no problems with Anil being his dad's sounding board. I have no problems with Anjali being her father's sounding board. None of that. But there are people in the league who have worked years and years and years trying to get to a point to earn one of these jobs. And this is someone who joined the franchise during the season last year in, the social responsibility department. Mm-hmm. She does not have a basketball background outside of her dad led her team. And, she's played in the celebrity tournaments, the celebrity all-star game at All-Star Weekend, right? Like, this isn't even about, like, is she brilliant? Is she not? Man or woman? Like, again, like, the Ronadive children should be part of this because they're going to inherit this at some point. But at the end of the day, like, this is a real job. This is a real job where you don't just have to know the 450 players in the NBA. You got to know all the two-way players, and then you got to know another like 1,000 names of potential players. You got to worry that like game 30 of the season, the Sacramento Kings will completely gut the Stockton Kings roster because of a COVID outbreak, and they'll have to find 6 players off the street to go fill out a roster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to know the game, you have to have sources, you have to have ties with agents that you can call and say, who do you got for me? Like, you have to have all these things in place, and that's just not like it. There are a lot of ways you could have brought her into the fray where it wouldn't have been so jarring and like for a lot of people in the industry, like offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are a lot of kids that work for their parents in the NBA, that their parents are owners. But that's not what this is. This is like a very like important job at the G League level, but important because this job is in the room with the main job. Because when they go draft and when they go talk about second round picks and when they go build out a summer league roster, those are Monty, Wes, Phil Johnson, the GM for the Stockton Kings. That's what, like, this group has to build out this roster all the time, and it's complicated. And you need to know the game really well, and you need to know, not just like study up on, memorize every player in this year's draft. You got to have some basis for breaking down players and understanding players and evaluating players. And so, again, I think that there are ways that this could have been done where we weren't like looking at this like in this way. Like she's in the room doing some scouting stuff, assistant player personnel director or something, where you're easing her into some position to learn a bunch and you want her to learn some of the basketball side. That's one thing. But like, we talk about meddling ownership, and now his daughter is in the room while they're making their draft selections, and it's an experience, and it's like all the things that you worry about when you talk about nepotism. Like, why is someone getting a job like this? And so, like, again, I don't have any problems with any of them. I you've got to learn everything from top to bottom. But, there's a way that you start in any business, and you don't usually get to skip like 14 steps and go straight to an assistant GM, even if it is a G League GM. That doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. There's only 2 of them. It's not like this has like a monstrous staff. So anyway, yeah.
The thing about it with me is, and like I said, I may look at it differently than most, or whatever the case may be. And I'm just gonna assume, because I don't know, I've never spoken to her, or she hasn't spoken on the situation. I'm assuming that she genuinely wants to do this. This is a genuine job and career path that she's trying to do. And she could be great at it. For all we know, I don't look at her taking that job as an indictment on her or what she might be able to do at that job. I hope she does great, to be honest with you. The issue that I have when you're just talking about the perception is you did her no favors by putting her in that situation. You know what I mean? Like, if she's really trying to do this, she's already, perception wise, she's already behind the 8 ball, because you placed her in that spot. Like you said, if you would have eased her in with a different title, and she could have been in the same meetings, the same brainstorming sessions between all the same people. But if you had a different title for her, as like special advisor to the whatever, something that gave her a less title, it would
office intern.
Right. Like, you could have done something like that, and it would have, like I said, you're making the job hard for her, because now people are looking at her like, with some people may be looking at her with like a side eye, or you don't deserve this, as opposed to just trying to help her out and help her along her journey. And that's the thing that I'm looking like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do it in that way. You didn't have to give her that title. And it just kind of maybe made things difficult for her perception wise, moving forward.
Well, that, and like they asked the question, I've had conversations like, how does Vivek like fix the perception of himself, like with the fan base? And, you know, like it's by avoiding situations like this. Like this is avoidable. This isn't, it is really difficult to wrap your head around like how you thought this would go over well. And that, to be honest with you, the Kings are so lucky they moved up to number 4 in the draft, because if they didn't, this would have been the story the rest of the week. Right. It would have been the story. If they dropped to number 8, you joke around and give her credit, she would have been blamed. And it's just like perception is reality in this business, and in a lot of life it is, and the perception of this is not good. It's just not. And again, she could be wonderful at this, and I hope she's given a fair shake to do this, but at the same time, like, just like think ahead about what the PR hit is going to be. Exactly. And if you want to change the way that you're thought of in the league, if you want to, in your own city, by your own fan base, if you want to change the way that you're thought of, then do things differently. Like don't do things that are a shock to the system and don't make that no one can make sense of.
Right.
Like no one can make sense of this. Like how, when we get to, Mike Brown's press conference and Monty McNair is sitting up there, do you think that there's going to be a question about this? Probably. And how do you answer that question?
I don't know.
He owns the team. Like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, that's not going to be the answer. The answer is like, we think she's got a bright basketball mind, and or opening her, welcoming with open arms and stuff like that. But
that's another, not to cut you off, but that's another unfair situation, because Vivek, you're not going to be up there at the podium answering that question. Now you got Monty answering that question, or if I don't know if she's at the podium, she's going to be asked that question, where it's just unfair and unnecessary to put all these people in these difficult situations just based on a title. Like I said, if you want her in the organization and she wants to take it seriously and be a part of it, 100%. I will say it again.
I agree.
The team and my son wants to be a part of it, he's going to be a part of it. But there's a way that PR wise, you can make it less of a negative experience, at least to start.
Just less jarring for everyone. Yeah, and like, look, I hope it works out. I hope it works out for her. I hope it works out for everybody. Maybe she discovers like, the next Pascal Siakam, and like maybe there's something here, and like, but at the same time, you could have done this differently. And to me, I feel that so often with this group, like, boy, we could have handled that one differently. Yeah. And so again, I like there is no benefit of a doubt here. That's the problem. You're not going to give someone the benefit of the doubt here. You're just going to like wonder how much this impacts, Paul Johnson's ability to do his job.
Yeah.
And hope that, that this thing works out for everybody involved, and that,
Now, here's the other thing, and man, I wish I had it out here. As pragmatic pessimist stated earlier, and we went through yesterday on the show, is that it seems like Joe Lacob's son at 22 years old had the same start. Like he was the assistant general manager. Matter of fact, I think if he wasn't the assistant general manager, he might have had a higher title than what Miss Ronadive has for her initial title. We talked about Miami, and you talked about how there are other members in jobs, and we talked about in Miami, Mickey Harrison's son holds a higher position than what she has with the Stockton Kings. He has a higher position with the Miami Heat. So it's not out of left field, but it's also a situation where we know that she was an R&B singer, and she tried that career, and the reputation of the Kings and Ronadive and other, it's just a bad look to do it in this way. And it's like you said, it could have been handled so much differently. and so much smoother, to be honest.
Well, that and I mean, like, look, if you want to change the perception of yourself in a city, this isn't the way to do it. Like at the end of the day, like, and you can talk about the Warriors and the Lakers and the Heat and the Denver Nuggets and the Atlanta Hawks. You know what all of those teams have in common? They don't have a 16-year playoff drought. They don't have this. This is not like what their life is all about. They are winning teams. They are winning franchises that have done it right and done a lot of different things, to make what they do like more palatable. So, yeah. And look, like people like in the chat here, like, would I be more qualified for that job? Like, I wouldn't ever ask for that job or put my name in for that job. But yes, I've covered the draft for 13 straight years. I've interviewed all these people. I've covered the draft even longer than that. I've studied it like nonstop. So yeah, it's another one of those things where you just look at it like, okay, here we go again. I hope this works out, and we shouldn't be saying I hope this works out so often. So.
Well, once again, I hope this works out.
They had time to negotiate that contract.
Yeah.
How about that?
They've got to, and that's the other thing. We talked about it earlier. We'll talk about it again right now. This situation with Monty McNair, you mentioned they're all in Chicago. I mean, they're all there. Monty McNair, Vivek, Wes Wilcox, they're all there. And we're still having to worry about whether or not Monty McNair is a lame duck GM, if there's even a consideration, if there's even negotiations for a contract extension, when he has to make probably the biggest decision of his young career in less than a month.
And in the franchise's history.
Yes. I don't understand why that's up in limbo right now as well. that should take priority. Yeah. And like I said earlier, you're all right there. Like, what are you doing for 24 hours a day where you're so busy? I know people are busy. I know they're multimillionaires and billionaires and have all these deals that they've got to look at. I'm not minimizing it, but what are you doing where you can't have this conversation? You can't.
Well, that just tells you that they don't want to have the conversation, or they don't want to have it yet. I mean, like that conversation should have already been had. So,
yeah. Like I said earlier, and you echoed it. This conversation should have been had when they internally, even before, they made it official. Internally, when they decided they're going to move on from Alvin Gentry and he's not going to be the main coach, okay, we're going to go looking for a coach. So am I going to grow with this coach, or am I just still on my 1 year? Like, that's when the conversation should have been had in the beginning of April sometime. And here we are close to June. Now you got this gift from the basketball gods where you've got a top 4 pick and you could possibly get a franchise changing guy. And you still haven't even had the conversation about whether the guy making the decision is going to be around to see this thing through.
Well, and even if you read Sam Amick's report on this, because this is something I've been saying about the Monty situation for a while. I've been talking about it like nonstop on the podcast. We've written about it. But like even when Sam Amick wrote his piece, he said that it was a topic of discussion with potential coaching hires. Like, what's the plan? So again, maybe they got something that made sense. Maybe they did. Maybe they're part of a conversation that, they're like, okay, that makes sense to me. But that's not out there. And it's certainly not, again, there are reasons why it's out. This conversation is out there right now that Monty McNair has not had his contract, while they haven't negotiated at all. Yeah. So, I mean, it's very specific. So
yeah. So I mean, we can only hope, like you mentioned earlier, with the Kings with this number 4 pick, that number one, I just hope that they get everything squared away with Monty and Wes Wilcox and their contract. I think that would be first and foremost the best thing. But if they're not able to, that Monty does whatever is best for the team. And I have no reason to believe that he won't, because he's a stand-up guy, and I just think that's the way he gets things done. But if he can do it with a clear conscience, with a clear mind, where it's not, all right, I kind of think this is best for the team, but my boss wants me to make the playoffs now, so I'm not going to draft the guy that may take 2 years to develop, even though that's best. I'm gonna go ahead and make this deal, which is a short-term thing, but all that stuff going on. I hope that he's able to make whatever decision that he wants to make for this franchise. And what you just stated, which I agree with, the biggest decision in the history of the franchise at this point, with a clear mind and do it with a genuine heart.
Yeah. Well, look, I honestly think, yeah, and George, just reading the Chatty House, no, she's not more qualified for a GM job than Vlade Divac. Divac's played in the league for years and was around the league forever. That's not what this is about. Again, we can compare apples and oranges all we want if that's what the deal is, but yeah. Yeah, to get back to Monty, I've had plenty of conversations with Monty. Monty's a good dude. Deep down, he's a good guy. He wants to do right here. He wants to get this thing back where it should go. And I hope that it all works out for him in the end. And I already see sort of the changes. I mean, we're down to literally 2 players that were on the roster. Rashawn Holmes, De'Aaron Fox, and Harrison Barnes that were on the roster before he took over the team. So 3 players total, and I don't expect, at a minimum, I don't expect Rashawn Holmes to be back. So he's completely turned over the roster in 2 years. He's got them in good salary cap space, where next year they have upwards of $70 million of salary cap space. He's got all of his draft picks, including the number 4 pick in this draft, but also 2 second-round picks in this draft, all of his draft picks going forward. He's done everything to show me that he's on the right path. He's got De'Aaron Fox locked up long-term. He's got Sabonis, and the things they've done to help build Sabonis up in the franchise is great. Him being there as a face of the franchise for the NBA draft lottery was spectacular. Him having a great moment was spectacular. These are all things that, I think Monty has a big hand in. And so, again, I hope that it works out. I hope that we're on the right path and that he figures out how to get a long-term extension, however that is, that needs to happen. But, again, if you want to preach consistency, you want to preach all these things that they preach, then actually follow through and do the stuff yourself. It's one thing to keep saying, we want our team to be consistent and we want to get better and better. But then every time you take a step forward, you take 4 steps back or 3 lateral steps and then 2 steps backwards. You're just coming from a different angle now, but you took 2 steps back. It really does. It gets frustrating for everybody involved and everybody who covers it and watches it. And it's always the same perpetual cycle.
Yeah. Damien's brought up this possibility in the past, but do you think it's possible that Monty is the one saying, I want to hold off on this? I'm not sure if I want to be married to this franchise for years moving forward, so we can revisit this at a later date. Do you think there's a possibility of that?
I think that's highly unlikely because, again, I don't think that's how this would play out. That's not how sources would put it out there and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pretty straight up. Now, there is always a possibility that Monty is undecided about whether he wants to be here long term. There's always that possibility, but I think that there's still a point where you need to go into negotiations and you might push it off a little bit and say, look, let me see what we can do this offseason. And then go from there because I'm not going to take the same money that I'm making right now. And let me show you what I can do. Maybe, but you let the guy just hire a coach and give him a 4-year deal. And that the issue with your franchise is not choosing a path and sticking with it. And you let the guy dismantle an entire roster. You let him trade a player who could be a future all-star in Halliburton for a 25-year-old center in Domantas Sabonis. I mean, you're kind of pot committed at this point with him, but you're not. So, I mean, that's a little strange.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just, I keep getting back to it. It's just crazy that these conversations aren't even really being had. Like, I don't understand that whatsoever. But that's what's going on. We kind of took a left turn here in the last 20, 30.
Yeah.
What's going on? Yesterday was a fun day for the Sacramento Kings and Sacramento Kings fans. It was a fun day. It was a great moment. And I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun ride to this draft. And then seeing like what they do with the draft pick, seeing the draft pick in summer league and all this other stuff, or maybe not. Maybe they get an established player, but that'll be fun in itself as well. Yesterday was a good day for the Kings and for Kings fans. I thought, you know what I mean. It started off a little rocky. It had people scratching their head for a little bit, but at the end of the day, it was exciting. It was a lot of fun, and I was glad we got a chance to talk about stuff like that today as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of this has been a good 24 hours for the Kings. Like, embrace the good, and avoid the chaos. That's the way this should go. Like, embrace the good, avoid the chaos. And so I hope they figure out a way to quiet some of this noise. We say that all the time, though, and they still haven't figured out a way to quiet the noise. I'm hoping that we're on a better path now. But again, we always feel like we're hoping that they're on a better path. So I think celebration is what Kings fans should be doing right now. They should be watching high school mixtapes of Shaedon Sharpe. They should be watching Jaden Ivey do John Morant things, looking exactly like John Morant.
Just like that.
I mean, like literally like his publicist
He's
said.
a little bigger too.
We're going with the John Morant look with you, and that's where we're going. And he's like, okay, I'm in. Like I think everyone should be figuring out how to say Palo Banquero. That's what you should, because Banquero, yeah. And you should try to see if you can ever fall in love with the name Chet, because it's just like really hard. Like, sorry if there's any Chets out there listening, but that's where we should be. That's what we should be, enjoying this process. Jabari Smith Jr. I mean, his dad literally played for the Kings.
Yeah.
Jabari Smith was a King. He's a player that I think they paid a bunch of money to shave his head.
Do you know if Jabari Smith Jr. was born when Senior was playing here? So, like, could he be coming home? Could Junior be coming home?
That's a good question. I would have to I don't think so. I think Jabari was here a little bit further. Yeah, Jabari.
Because that's another storyline. Jabari coming home, Sacramento.
Let's see. So his last year was 2002, and I think Jabari is younger than that. Which isn't that crazy. Jabari Smith Jr., I believe, was born after 2002. That's just. Oh wait, no, he did come back in the 2003-04 season.
So Jabari could be coming home. Come on, let's print the shirts. Come on home, Jabari. Come on.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, but there are a lot of good storylines here, and if you're a Kings fan, you should be really excited about what's next. Like, this is fun because there is a lot riding on this, and everyone knows there's a lot riding on it, and everyone's main goal is to get this team back to prominence, back to the playoffs. And that's, again, let's not try to take away everything. My guy Sean Cunningham ruined the day yesterday with the early news. But of course it's news he had to break. Because people were starting to ask questions about why Vivek's daughter was at the Chicago Combine. So that's, really, it's, you got to ask questions. So let's just push forward and focus on the Jaden Ivey versus Shaedon Sharpe conversation, and hope that maybe one of these big guys fall.
James, we heard me talking about it all the time, and giving my thoughts. Shaedon Sharpe. No, I don't want Shannon here, because I think he's a little past his prime. But I talked about how I want Shaedon Sharpe, how I'd be happy with Jaden Ivey. I could even see a world where I'd be like, all right, Keegan, let's go. Let's see what he's got. if they keep the pick, who do you think they should take?
If they keep the pick, you know what? Like, you kind of got me close to Shaden Sharp. I really do hope that that's not the choice. That's not who they're choosing between. I hope that somehow that one of the big guys fall to number 4, because I think that is such a player of need, and all 3 of them are intriguing in their own right, and I think they all 3 could help the Kings in their own way. But Ivy's lack of defense is a slight concern. His fit with Fox is a slight concern, and I do like Sharp in a lot of what I've seen. We'll have to see how all of his measurements come out and all that, but I think that there's a lot of potential there. And if it were today, and I was asked very specifically, would you trade the pick or keep the pick? I'd trade the pick without any question, even if one of the bigs fell, unless it was, very specific players. But I also would, if I had to choose a player, it'd likely be Sharp at this point. But that could change. Because I'd also try to move down 1 or 2 spots and pick up a couple more players.
Monty McNair, like Kenny Caraway on Friday Night Softball, swinging for the fences. Come on. Swing for them fences, man. Ain't no singles going on around here. Ain't no. I'm not going Oppo Taco. Yeah, I'm swinging. I'm letting it go. I'm swinging that thing for the flagpole. All right, let's go. Let's get it done. But if you decide to trade, or if you do, I'm okay with that too. All right, I'm okay with that too. Don't get it. The bottom line is get it right. That's the biggest thing, man. James, I appreciate you hanging out with me for 4 hours today, man. That was some fun stuff on a fun day for sure. And if anybody missed any of it, obviously you've got the podcast. But if you're checking in right now and you're like, oh man, I wanted to hear what they had to say when they first got on the radio, don't worry. We're running the best of right now on the Odyssey app on ESPN 1320 and on your car radios. Best of the D'Lo and KC show today that aired, and that'll lead into Warriors Mavs Game 1 at 5:30 right here on ESPN 1320. And I'm gonna go with the Warriors in Game 1. What you got, James?
Warriors.
Yeah. I think that'll be the case as well. It's gonna be fun to see, though. It's definitely gonna be fun to see. So, like I said, one of these days, we're going to be leading into Kings Thunder Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. That's the goal. Shaden Sharp, he's out there. He's got the strap. Jason Tatum got it right now. Shaden Sharp has the belt. I'm speaking it all into existence, just like I did the whole top 3, top 4 thing that I spoke into existence yesterday. I'm going to do it again with this. Man. James, once again, man, I appreciate you, man. It's been a good time talking with you and vibing with you today, man.
You too, man.
All right, man. Once again, Damian should be back tomorrow. We'll see, man. This guy's out here champagning and campaigning. So, we'll see if we can catch up with him. I'll be here tomorrow. We'll be here with more Kings talk tomorrow. And, yeah, man, go Warriors. And that's D'Lo and KC right here on ESPN 1320. See you guys tomorrow, man. Nice. Oh, man. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, James. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man. It's fun.
Yeah. Good times. Good day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that F guy, 916, just so you know, like it's possible and likely probable that Angeli, there we go. That Angeli has been at the 3 workouts so far this season. She has not been at the workouts for the last 9 years. So, yeah, that hasn't happened. She has not been part of the franchise at all until she took a job on the PR side with the social responsibility job this last year. So, she had a career as a singer.
James, did you see that we had a position player pitching alert in Oakland?
Yeah, it's Chad Pender. And now it's 14-4.
Yeah, they kind of rocked him a little bit. I didn't know if they were ever going to get out of that inning, but it was a line drive, catch him out, throw him out, double play. I got him out of there.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, it's not been a good couple of weeks for the Oakland A's. Outside of the one big losing streak, they've actually played around 500 ball, before and after. But yeah, it's kind of tough right now. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing was, we did mention that Monty McNair didn't have a contract long before, we actually after before the coaching hire.
Mm-hmm.
Like we mentioned that many times before, and it's something that could have happened.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we are going to get out of here. I've got a baseball potluck to go to. So,
ooh, exciting!
Yeah,
exciting.
We'll see what they got going on. I gotta get the meal that I'm bringing. I gotta go get that ready. So we got all that, man. I appreciate you guys were in here heavy today, heavy, and for a long time. And so we appreciate you guys. Damian should be back tomorrow, so we'll get his thoughts on everything. We'll talk about all that as well. And yeah, man, y'all enjoy the Western Conference Finals, man. See you guys tomorrow.